School Committee's November 20th, 2025 regular meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. I'll just read the agenda, which consists of public comment, followed by remarks from the superintendent, chair, and student representatives. Consent agenda consisting of the Elks Lodge annual grant of $200 to WHS Special Education, Anchor Society grant of $750 for combat robotics for the National Havoc Robot League competition, an Anchor Society grant of $2,000 for research databases for McCall students and staff, Winchester Basketball Association gift of benches with an approximate value of $1,812.71 for the WHS gymnasium, an Ambrose Elementary PTO donation of $6,286.52 to the Ambrose Elementary Media Center, and consideration of minutes from October 9th, 2025. Then we have reports and action items consisting of elementary literacy update, a DESE review update, budget subcommittee update, and a state of the town update. And then we have consideration of policy JKAA, the restraint policy, and the master facilities plan update. Next meeting, future agenda items, and an executive session for purpose 2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union administrative personnel. Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with units A and C, and purpose 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, as the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the committee. And then we will return for consideration of ratification of the unit C agreement and then adjournment. So, Stephen, as
I would ask for one shift in the agenda, just if we could take the elementary literacy
before consent.
before consent agenda.
Sure. Okay. And then, let's see, we'll first begin with public comment. Do we have anybody here for public comment?
I got a quick one.
Okay, so we'll just read out the little preamble. Right, I might be able to see this.
Let's see on the slide.
So I'll go from memory. This may be a summary. So public comment is a period of time of 20 minutes. It's a chance for the public to reach out and speak with the committee through the chair on topic items of business that are pertinent to the school committee or which are on the agenda for the evening. It's not a chance to have a conversation with committee members or to have an exchange. Yeah, to have an exchange with committee members. And we would ask that you please give your name and your address.
Very well done.
And yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to keep time if you want.
Oh, yes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yes, and generally 3 minutes per speaker.
Great. Hey everybody, John Valera, I live at 136 Highland Ave, former Winchester High School and full system student back to Morocco. I wanted to talk a little bit about like composting in the district. I know that during town meeting, there's new composting equipment at the transfer station. I know that environmental sustainability is a big priority of the district with the new solar panels that we're having installed. I know that there's currently an ongoing effort at the high school to do more around composting, and just wanted to highlight that that's a really great pedagogical tool for students to learn about environmental sustainability, but also is a great way for us to reduce our carbon footprint as a district. So just wanted to elevate that as an idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any others for public comment? No. Oh, well, hello there. Let's welcome to. All right, well then with that and with the consensus of the committee, we're going to move the elementary literacy update forward to first thing on our agenda. I didn't do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna move. Okay, we can do that after. Okay. I'm gonna move John and I.
Sure.
We put other chairs over here, Stephanie,
That's
so.
fine.
yeah. Don't mind us moving over.
Yeah.
Right up front.
Welcome.
Really?
Smile.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you sit. There's a lovely chair over here. And I love it. Oh, perfect.
I knew you guys could do it.
We got it figured out.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We'll go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Melissa Newell. I'm the literacy coordinator for elementary.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Palin, and I'm the principal of Amherst Elementary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ella Adams McLeod, and I'm the principal at Lincoln.
I'm Ann Bianchini. I teach third grade at Lynch. I'm Allison Lynch, and I am a grade 3 teacher at Lynch.
Hi, I'm Leslie West. I'm the principal of Morocco Elementary School.
Hi, I'm Betty Beauchamp, second grade at VO.
Jen Anderson, second grade at VO.
Hi, Sarah Troisi, second grade at VO.
Olivia Amder, special education at VO.
Hello, Kathy Karen, principal at VO. Susan Cabanano, principal at Lynch.
So tonight we want you to take a moment just to read through this vision statement. And while some of you continue reading, we want to talk about this because it is of the utmost value to all the work that we've been doing. Our vision statement, it's really the window into the future. It's what we're aiming toward, and it's our shared purpose. Our vision truly began with a commitment to ensure that every student has a strong literacy experience in Winchester. And these bullets serve as our beacons. It's our hope that this is what teaching and learning and literacy looks like.
So we wanted to start this conversation by where we're at right now. And so, as you know, we're piloting 2 curriculum programs, EL Education 2025 and Arts and Letters 2024. Those are both brand new curriculum programs. And we have in the middle, we're living right now in this yellow area. So we're in the middle of collecting data. We've established our ELT 2.0. We're unpacking modules, collecting feedback from piloteers. That's what we call our pilot teachers. And then starting our informal classroom observations. So our hope is that by March, we will have our report from CES. The steering committee will review that feedback. We will present something to Dr. Hackett, and then Dr. Hackett will bring it to the school committee.
Not by himself, he will not.
Perhaps we shall be back. Just to help you think about how we're collecting data, so we have a variety of data points. Pilot teachers and the literacy team are already submitting journals with their informal qualitative reflections. They'll be part of a pilot teacher survey and a literacy team survey, and then there'll also be focus groups. We've scheduled all of those dates with CES. Students will be part of student engagement sessions. We are going to do hopefully 2 rounds of those, but our first round is coming up. We're also going to be collecting student data in the form of writing samples. Families and caregivers will be invited to solicit feedback, and then we are starting the exciting task in December of visiting all of the pilot classrooms in action. And then we have our leaders who will also have a focus group and have already been going on classroom observations guided by EL and Arts and Letters. So as you can see, we will have a lot of information to help us make the decision moving forward. Tonight, we're going to talk about very briefly the revised assessments, almost exclusively about the ongoing pilot data, and then our professional development to support that. So this year, we've made some revisions to our assessments. We are continuing to use DIBELS, which was used previously as our early literacy screener, but we are now doing it electronically. So we have a digital version called MClass. So our educators, the literacy team administered the first round. Our educators will have training in December and they will administer the January round. And we've already had PD on interpreting results and planning for instruction. So it's the same assessment, but it's a new platform. It looks a little different. So there's been some professional learning to support that. And then when I started, there was conversation about a need for a streamlined assessments and sort of bringing us from where we were to where we're going. So we are using a phonics decoding inventory. It does have skills in isolation. It also has connected text so that we can hear students in both the practice when they hear the original words and then when they're reading it in an actual passage. And then that is to dig deeper for anyone we need more information about. It's untimed. And so that's sort of how we are trying to evolve. We're also using Fountas and Pinnell benchmark, but we are not using that until level I now, when texts more closely resemble traditional books that students would encounter anyways. And we are also doing that a bit less frequently. So we've dropped down to 2 times a year for most grades, not kindergarten, as I said, because they're not typically reading at level I, not at the start of first grade, unless they're a student reading significantly above grade level. And then in 5th grade, we're only doing that once. All of this is to say, we're in the middle of a messy year of figuring out these pilots. So this is our first revision. Those will be revised next year as we land on one curriculum tool and see what assessments it has. So we are moving to our knowledge building curriculum, and that has required some shifts, and we're going to continue to support that understanding this year. So in a knowledge-based curriculum, we're trying to build stronger comprehension through the growth of knowledge. So within these programs, students are studying a topic for an extended amount of time over a variety of different kinds of texts. That includes a focus on vocabulary so that they can talk about these content areas with great depth. That includes improved background knowledge so that students now have the schema to map their new learning onto, which leads to better comprehension. Hopefully accelerating their learning and then making sure we have equity across all students are getting access to the same material. What does that look like in practice? So on this side, you'll see a workshop model, which is where the district was. All of those components were there: read aloud, reading workshop, writing workshop, word study, but they were all taught separately and in isolation. In a knowledge building curriculum, you'll see in that graphic that knowledge is at the center and that students are doing reading, writing, speaking, and listening all integrated throughout that block. The 2 programs are actually quite similar. So both are knowledge building, both include high quality text, authentic text. So students are not reading things in an anthology per se. They have integrated ELA skills as the previous slide showed, and then they are both aligned to the science of reading. Both have 4 modules. So those are the big content buckets that students would be focused on, and those go across the year. They are slightly different in the way their lessons are structured. The work times are a little bit different in EL, and Arts and Letters has a launch, learn, land, and then EL has a character component, and Arts and Letters has an art component. So that's some of the high level ways that they're different. Just to give you a sense of what teachers are doing. So this was our election day PD. Teachers in each curriculum pilot spent time unpacking the next module that they're about to teach. And then they presented that information in terms of a gallery walk so that their colleagues could see vertically how the programs align and how they grow. So you'll see on this, EL is on top and down below is arts and letters, and we did a similar process. So it was great for people to be able to see, oh, I can see how these topics are growing as students progress throughout the years. And so we're going to talk a lot about how it's going. That's why the teachers are here and they're the best ones to hear this from. But in terms of, as I've been out in schools seeing this in action, kids are excited to get back to literacy from a movement break. They're excited to practice fluency. In fact, I was in the classroom when the student said, it's fun. Here you can see in 4th grade is an image of the circulatory system, and those little tiny speech bubbles are funny comics about the blood getting trapped. And then the little label is the art process that the student made to create this. So these students are really internalizing what they're learning. And then, you know, in this day and age, the students are very into 6-7. And in one classroom, they were replacing that with, can you tell me more about that? So they were using it to sort of rib each other and their teacher, but by pushing each other's thinking. So doing it in the very best ways. So let's hear about how it's really going. I'm going to present a couple of slides on behalf of teachers who sent them to me and asked me to do so. This is from the grade 2 at the Morocco. They're piloting the EL. I'm not going to read these verbatim, but some high leverage things. They're really seeing the connections. They're highly engaged topics, connections across content, but also to social justice standards. Students are having deep conversations. Some of the places that they're still working through, the materials, because they're open source, are a little trickier to organize. Teacher talk can be high in some of the lessons. Scheduling and pacing is still an issue that they're working on, and then trying to figure out how to support all students.
Hi, we're the 2nd grade team at VO, and we are piloting arts and letters. After just 2 months of implementation, we've seen a lot of student success so far. First of all, the students are so excited about arts and letters. On the days that we have half days and have to change up the schedules, they're clearly disappointed that they don't see arts and letters on our schedule. So it's really high interest for the students. They have thoroughly enjoyed the topics and the modules, and also engaging in a variety of texts. They've read articles, they've looked at art, they've read informational texts, they've read fictional texts, they've done it all, and they are very interested in those topics and love exploring those diverse texts. It's not only building their listening and speaking skills, but also their reading and writing. From an educator perspective, the manual is super detailed and easy to follow, and they also have really great online resources to support us. And then last and most importantly, all students are able to feel success on each and every day, as well as in the whole module, the greater picture, because of this differentiated supports within the lessons. For example, they offer a prologue lesson almost every day, and that is a time for the students to preview vocabulary, preview the reading fluency all before the lesson takes place, so that they can feel successful in the lesson. This has been a great tool for the ML and special education staff to have that support and give students that great knowledge and that great pre-teaching opportunity all before the lesson. On the next slide, we have some different examples of student success. On the left, we have world and knowledge charts. Almost at the end of every lesson, they think about what they learned about the world and what they learned about our ELA skills, and it's a great way to track student learning, and they really enjoy doing that. In the middle, we have an example about how the students are not only asked to utilize vocabulary and listening and speaking skills, but also in their writing, showing really high examples of mastery. And then almost every day, the students are engaging in a lot of wonderful writing activities that they thoroughly enjoy. And so we listed a few examples of their writing as well.
So with every program, there's obviously going to be hurdles. But as a seasoned teacher of 24 years, I think the explicit teaching that goes on in this rich, comprehensive program, it's really giving us the tools we need and that the students deserve, the tools and structure. That being said, it has required a lot of planning, time, and learning as well in year one. The provided slide decks have minimal visuals. Manuals don't provide page numbers, and lessons can be lengthy. I'm struggling with. But I'm working on it. Talking too much, as you see. But they have been very receptive to our feedback, which is amazing for our program, for them to do.
There have been a lot of writing successes. One really important piece of it is that there's a lot of oral rehearsal, so it helps the students really internalize their ideas and plan before they're writing. That is especially helpful for our students who are on IEPs or our ML students who are really working on those speaking skills. Personally, in second grade, in the past 12 weeks, our students have written 4 narrative writing pieces. It's been kind of a gradual release too. We did some really explicit teaching at the beginning of, you know, what is a character, what is a setting, problem, solution, all that stuff you're seeing on the right side of the slide. And it's been a gradual release, and we've been able to give them more and more responsibility every time. To now, they did their last one, and we kind of pretty much sent them on their own to do it, and they were able to follow all of those steps independently. There are explicit grammar concepts that are taught. Our students have been learning about subject and predicate, which has been really great. And they are editing their writing as well, checking for capitalization, punctuation, spelling. We've been very explicitly teaching time order words to include in their writing, as well as sensory details. Those are some examples on the right side of that. And then I know this is a little hard to see up here, but this is a student writing example. So this is one of the planning pages from their workbook where they planned out their narrative writing piece. I believe this one was about, they learned about snow crystals. So this one was about the journey of a snow crystal. And they were tasked with including a main character, the setting, time order words, sensory details, problem, solution, all of that good stuff. And this has been really successful for them, and they've been really excited about these narratives too, which has been the best part.
Here are some of the reading and literacy successes. There's a daily fluency practice that's right in the students' learn books, which is really helpful. It's a consistent routine that they're familiar with every day and helps develop stronger accuracy, pacing, and expression. Students are also reading a wide variety of texts, like Olivia touched upon. These are just all of the texts we did in just Module 1, including fiction, poetry, nonfiction, and articles. Students also have multiple opportunities to respond to what they read, both orally and in writing. So they participate in discussions, lots of turn and talks and structured conversations that require them to explain their thinking. The assessments include listening comprehension and content. So the listening comprehension allows us to understand a student's true comprehension skills without having decoding getting in the way. And then the content portion ensures students are retaining and applying the knowledge they gain from the text. There's also something called a response to assessment, which allows us to go over the questions the next day and address any misconceptions, which we found to be very helpful and meaningful. There's also daily comprehension work and multiple readings. So students revisit text multiple times, each time with a new focus or purpose. This layered approach helps students understand text more deeply and then allows them to apply specific strategies that we've taught, whether we're teaching to identify the main idea, story elements, or analyzing the title of a text. That repeated exposure we have found really strengthens their comprehension over time. Another strength is background knowledge. Students are gaining information and vocabulary that they carry with them across subjects as well as outside of school, not just within the arts and letters block. There's also a time at the end of each lesson where we reflect on world knowledge and DLA knowledge, and that's a very familiar routine, and the students are getting really good at that. Finally, there's an emphasis on vocabulary. The vocabulary instruction is embedded throughout the modules, not only through explicit teaching of new words, but also through repeated exposure across contexts. And then on the next slide, there's also some examples of a class chart retelling steps from the Snow Crystal book that Jen was just talking about. There's a student example of retelling of an informational text using the time order words, and they're also given opportunities to orally rehearse those with peers. And then on the top, that's an example of another fluency page that they practice with a partner from their learn books.
That is grade 2 at the VO of Arts and Letters, and we wanted to give you an opportunity if you had any questions.
That's how good you are. Doesn't happen often.
I have a couple of questions, but they're not specific to grade 2 arts and letters, so maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Grade 5 at the Ambrose also asked to share some things on their behalf. So they've been reading The Birch Bark House. Students are deeply engaged with the variety of texts. They're learning to annotate early. The discussions are strong. The painted essay structure is intuitive and students are grasping it quickly. They really like the art lessons and the student workbooks. They think are great portfolios for families and caregivers. Some of their hurdles, as you heard, same thing, the time is still a challenge. Sometimes the lessons feel a bit long. Some of the things that are part of our implementation, because we're just starting, are the things that were taught in earlier grades are taking longer because they're teaching the structure versus just the content. Some of the text can be a bit difficult for all students to access, so they're also getting additional text in another block of time, and then planning. It's new and it's taking a long time still, as to be expected. They submitted some student artwork as well, so student organizers and paragraphs, helping them plan and then getting to their paragraph about Omakakan's family's life. And then they also asked students for some feedback, so it has helped me write and get better. It's also good having insight about the Ojibwe, the indigenous tribe represented. Sometimes the lessons in reading are challenging, but I think I'm improving. I've grown a lot this year in literacy. I can write essays with so much more information, better hooks and theses, and The Birch Bark House is a good book, although it's sad and intense. Even though literacy isn't my favorite thing in the world, it's pretty boring. I've grown a lot with my literature skills. So that's some real 5th grade feedback from the Ambrose. They also happened to write to the company and maybe told them that the paper needs to be better because their pencils are going through it. So we've got some advocacy going on as well. And then 5th grade at the Lynch is piloting EL, and they've also asked me to share some slides on their behalf. So they're really having great student discussions. They're using the conversation cues that are part of the program. Kids really responded well, actually, to the fishbowl protocol, where they're sitting in a circle discussing, and the outer circle is watching and observing and paying attention. One of their student discussion hurdles are still supports for students that are learning English and students with IEPs. They've got great writing successes as well. EL follows a read, think, talk, write cycle. They too have the painted essay, so those are some similarities across the two programs, and wanted to share an example of student writing. They are really enjoying the all block, which is an additional block in the EL program. It is unique to that program. They get to practice independent reading, accountable independent reading. Students, they complete task cards about their reading, and then they meet with the teacher in a small group, and they're going through all of the strands of the literacy pillars throughout this whole process. One of the challenges there is that sometimes there's flex days, and so they're supplementing materials. So before we get to leadership, we also have grade 3 from the Lynch year. They too are piloting arts and letters, and they're going to share a little bit about their experience.
We're not as advanced as every other school in grade level. We didn't do a slideshow.
You're here.
But we're here. So we teach 3rd grade, and I have to say that just from a teacher point of view, I feel really like, I've been teaching a while, and this is one of the first times that I see excitement and engagement, and they're coming in from home having done more research than what we've taught them. It's led them on a curiosity walk through, making their parents do all kinds of deep dives. And the connections that they make are so across everything, like the way that the program works, like they've already read, we started with poetry, they've read nonfiction, they've read fiction, they've looked at art, and the whole kind of focus is on how people explore the sea. And I gotta say, I've learned a lot. But the kids, what has been really kind of a joy as a teacher to see is that the kids that I'm in a try-teach class, so I have several IEP kids that are a couple that are dyslexic. And I would often see them trying to like hide away during literacy blocks where they just would pretend to read and kind of not know which way to go. They are some of the most engaged and most deep thoughts come from them. And they just feel so empowered that they are part of these higher level texts that they wouldn't normally have been able to read right off the bat. And because we look at a text so many times, they really know it deeply. And when we first started it, we were like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this poem, we are gonna look at this poem yet again. And I thought for sure the kids were gonna, be upset about it and say, can we move on? Every single time we read that poem, they were finding more things that they wanted to learn about, and they didn't think about how the voice was coming across, and like things that I just have not heard third graders talk about.
They're thinking very
Very critically, deeply, and the idea of having this focus has been really awesome because they're going so deep instead of broad. And I think we've really enjoyed watching that process of how going deeper has engaged them in a way that, looking at broad-based different texts and different things that they were all reading, this really, and it allows for we're all in it together. It is a whole group lesson that we also were finding long at times, but we think we found a good way to break things up. But I think that the hurdles, the benefits have far outweighed the hurdles. And I mean, some of the things we really love are the assessment pieces because they're all online. And it gives us the feedback, like we're not having to sit down and grade it. They're analyzing all of it, and then we get to just look at the results, and it saves so much time.
And we can share the results with them. They can hear themselves.
They can hear
They
themselves.
record themselves
Mhm.
of reading. So that's been very powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. I would say.
Yeah, it definitely.
And that's in both programs,
I mean, I actually don't think so in EL. I think that's different in EL. I think that.
Okay, so this is just our.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're also doing arts and.
It was still EL, I'm sorry, wasn't it?
I know, that might be.
Oh,
Not
sorry,
great.
they don't have any.
That's great.
I don't want
people to confuse.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
We got it.
I think another thing we really love is the cross-curricular aspect of it, where the art piece is been really great for them because they're looking critically at artwork, and they are, like, one was an abstract piece of art that I looked at and was like, I have no idea how that is supposed to be mountains in the sea, but we'll go with it. And they could pick things out that we didn't see, and then we all learned so much about how to analyze abstract art. And they learned about the process and how the artists made different risky choices in the artwork. And it's just been really cool to watch them make those connections, and also the science and the social studies piece being brought into the literacy block has really made for a nice time saver. I think we always we're looking at it very, okay, this is social studies, this is science, and so it's kind of nice that it's bringing all those together. The ease of use.
Yeah,
When you say.
I would say.
Yeah,
And I love the learn book.
We love the learn books, as you guys talked about it. We love the learn books because they each have one, and it's a portfolio by the end we just looked at their writing when they first started and where they are now, and they were blown away. They couldn't believe how much they had improved in their writing. And the teacher guide is really, I mean, you guys probably found this too. The teaching guide is really detailed and in a way that's helpful, because it also will tell you, oh, if you have kids who are struggling, this is how you can embed this. If you have, monitor, look for this. So it's like really guiding us to what we should be looking for. The challenges, I would say a lot like you, it's the timing, it's the time to plan. It just takes more time because it's new.
And to hear from each other.
And
Like, how did that go for you? How did you do that?
So yeah, it's finding time for that planning because it's completely different than all the other planning that we do.
We're getting better though.
We are getting better.
Really getting better.
We are really getting better. Yeah, at the beginning, it was a heavy lift, for sure. And we're now in November, and I think like we definitely feel like, all right, we got it.
Right. And the kids have settled
into it. They know the routines. They cross over almost every lesson. They'll see the same routines coming back, which has really kind of helped them, I think, see the structure of it and know, like, the cognitive load isn't on what is going to happen next. What are we going to do next? It's on the actual content. I think that wraps it up. I will say we're pro arts and yeah, but it is fun to be a teacher who's been teaching a while and be excited to teach and do this heavy lift. It's been,
and feel confident that they're getting something, very worthwhile and beneficial.
There are also lots of passionate EL staff who could not be here tonight, so we are not trying to present a sway either way, even though they are very compelling. But just schedules as they were.
I have an arts and letters question. The VO second grade team brought this up, and every arts and letters presentation mentioned how time intensive prep is. But you guys specifically mentioned year one. I think Betty, you mentioned it, that there was a lot of year one. Is it just that getting
Well, we
started?
haven't had year two. What I'm assuming, if we did,
Okay.
it'd be a lot easier.
But is that
next
an
year.
expectation that's being put forward from the very beginning, saying there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a learning curve in the first year, like there is with anything?
I mean, we haven't had the conversation, but I think that's with everything.
Yeah.
It's just a complete overhaul of how things have been taught before. And so it's a mind shift and it's scheduling shift, but it's worth it. It is worth it. But anything that we would choose it to be done well will take a lot of planning and time.
Right, so then how much more planning time do you think? If I made you into the Queen of Winchester, what do you think would be ideal from the arts and letters? Because that was a consistent concern and challenge across the buildings. Was intensive prep time.
Well, it's been at least, it's like
Well, a lot
an
of the
hour.
time we're using right now is to look at the slides because we mentioned how there are minimal visuals on there. So we're tweaking them a little bit so that way we can internalize what we're teaching without holding that manual in front of us. That takes time and we've been splitting it up. So that will be done after year one, which is a huge load off of us. I think some of the planning they might be talking about is just making some charts ahead of time before each lesson, but I feel like after year one, we'll know what to expect a little bit more. We know the structure, how the lessons go, when we need the notice and wonder chart, when we need a flow chart and things like that.
I really think
a lot of it's year one.
I
really believe so we spend at least an hour for me to prep to just make sure I have it like clear.
Yeah.
You know, because you're also looking for any possible pitfalls and you just want to be extremely prepared. So it does run smoothly. You feel this pressure of making sure it goes really well. And I think that's the other part of why it's taking probably longer to prep than it might be for other things. We feel a big responsibility that this goes
Yes.
well.
And then
So-
next year, you'll be helping out your colleagues with whichever
Yeah.
program we choose, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
and they'll be able to reach out to you and help with that
I mean,
benefit.
which is also more team arts and letters.
Which is also, exactly, and which also requires more time. And we know every minute
Oh, you
counts,
guys.
and, and I know this is my third time hearing this presentation, because I made my rounds with Melissa and Miss Kirby at some of the parent associations at VO and at Ambrose. And some of the parent concerns were instructional time. Is this going to require more instructional time? And are we gonna run out of minutes in the day? Are we gonna have to borrow minutes somewhere else? Are we gonna require more prep time?
I actually think
You know,
it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's our reading and writing.
That would
Yeah,
normally have been
comprehensive.
2 hours,
So,
right?
yeah.
You have to think about what we used to plan for
Right.
reading separately and writing separately, and now it's all together integrated, so the instructional minutes wouldn't be nicer.
I don't think we've had any issues with the minutes at all. I think it's just been more of a shift of what is happening in those minutes.
Great, yeah, because I think that the concern was more, are we gonna have to borrow time from recess or circle time or whatever to accommodate more instructional time? And I'm glad that we won't be able, that we don't have to do that, so that will seamlessly move into the schedule that we all know and love. That's great. I have a couple more questions. Do you wanna go back and forth, or do you want me to finish?
I wanted to get back to Anne before we
Sure.
get too far away from what you were talking about, because Anne's kind of in a unique position where you said you're in a tri-teach.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about, the access for, kids who need more support, either EL or special education? And how you see, from your perspective, arts and letters supporting that kind of thing?
I have to say that as a tri-teach team, I mean, we have, we have kids who struggle for sure, and their IEPs our special ed teacher, like you guys have, we're able to co-teach together, and because it's consistent, we all can pick that up and go with it. And I find that it is so much easier to co-teach with this, because we're able to pick up where the other left off easily without trying to do some kind of like side conversation, like you do this, no, you do that. And also I love the prologue. I think you guys mentioned the prologue. The prologue is really great because it's a preview for mostly for MLs and special ed kids. So that they jump into it already having a basis and a foundation, so they don't feel lost, and they come in almost as the experts a little bit. And I think it's really allowed them to participate a lot more.
Arts and Letters really embeds a lot of differentiated supports in their lessons.
Yeah.
Like they said in the manual, they have notes and where they would expect some pitfalls. In addition to the prologue, another example is how on their assessments paired with the multiple choice answers are visuals. So a kid isn't expected to read what choice A is. There's a picture right there. Last year I would have doodled my own. It would have been unrecognizable. So I like little things like that are super appreciated in the program itself. And of course, there are teachers still making their own judgment calls on what a student needs, especially because they didn't have this in the previous years.
Yeah,
But there are a lot of supports already in place. Another one that is really highlighted in this program is the amount of peer-to-peer learning opportunities. They learn from each other more than they learn from us, which is the most valuable way of learning for a 7-year-old. Yeah. So those are just some examples, but I really think the peer-to-peer communication, as well as like their proactive thought process towards those differentiated supports, has been really helpful thus far 2 months in.
But the prologue is outside your 60 minutes. So do you foresee, and this is kind of building on Margie's question, do you see us needing to invest some time in working to schedule shifts at the elementary schools, or the way we structure the elementary day? to be able to do this effectively
Yeah.
and make sure we get.
I really don't, because I mean, the kids who really need the prologue have that extra service time, right? So like our special ed teacher takes them to at a separate time and preloads them with all of the prologue stuff. If I didn't have that in my classroom, I would still have kids who were struggling in some way. And I could take that prologue and use it in small group time in the afternoon to preload them ahead of time. So I like that it's accessible to all of us. You know, we all have access to the prologue. And for even, you know, this is the first time all of our kids have experienced it. So we've had to spend extra time on routines and things like that, that they would come, you know, in 5 years or so, they'll come already knowing all of that. But I think that I see this whole curriculum as a time saver, really. I think that it's making the time higher quality instead of more minutes.
I think one thing to note in terms of the schedule is while the knowledge building curriculum takes 1 hour, we've still maintained our UFly block or word study. And then we also have maintained an additional hour. So that's where prologue, small group, services, the all block for EL is happening. So regardless of which program you're in, each group still has the same amount of time to be able to target all of those skills.
And is that a solid hour or is that like 30 minutes here? So you have an hour for arts and letters or EL and then an hour for small group K.
Small group / independent reading / all block / prologue. Yes, so it's a little bit of a mix, often in a rotation style, but that is an extra hour that every grade has.
I have a question about the assessments. Now, both programs have built-in assessment tools. Has anyone utilized those assessments, and do you see those as complementary to what you're getting from Dibbles? Are decisions being made off of those tools, or is it still kind of a?
I mean, we've used like they've done the online test where it's like it kind of mimics MCAS, to be honest. It's like, so we were saying as third grade teachers that we really like that because it's teaching them those skills way ahead, but in a useful way. And we're not having to take extra time before the testing time starts to be like, okay, this is how you do a multiple choice. Like they already understand that.
And it's pretty low stakes.
It's very low stakes. They're not stressed out in any way. And also I think the Learn book really is, I find, a better assessment than anything because it's really what they are capable of doing on their own. And we can look back at those and say, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And then in a small group in the afternoon, I can pull those kids and be like, oh, you know what, let's look at this again. But I think the assessments have been great and they do kind of the analysis piece, like they spit it all out for us. And then we're able to just look at the data and I feel like we've done a much better job with that.
I'm excited. So we did that one full round and it was a fluency practice and then a show what you know and a grow what you know. I'm excited to do it for the second time after
That's what we
they
said.
lived through it once. I think those results would be like a little bit more accurate.
And how often are assessments administered?
Once in our next one is like probably next week.
So we've had 2 in the module,
The tech, the online.
the online piece.
So 2 per quarter?
But that's just for reading
Depending-
comprehension, right? There's a writing test too.
There's
Yes, we're
writing
doing
task,
writing
yeah.
in their Learn book.
So it's
Right.
fluency, it's reading comprehension, it's a response. They have a writing response part. So that part we grade ourselves. And the fluency part we grade because we listen to it. But yeah, I feel like it's more authentic data than we would have gotten before.
There's also the option, which we found helpful for the younger grades to print the assessments. So like for students that maybe aren't quite as tech savvy yet, which is very much our crew, printing them has been really helpful and made it a little bit more accessible too. And so we're able to use those just to really measure the reading comprehension. Their narrative writing pieces, or at least currently, to focus on their writing and how they're progressing there. And then, we see that they're struggling with the comprehension. That's when we can make that call to pull small groups and work on those skills during that reading intervention block.
I'm really glad to hear that there's an option to print it out and use old-fashioned paper and pencil.
Yeah.
Because that was a concern of parents, that is this new state-of-the-art curricula, do they involve more Chromebook time? Because you.
No,
Late
no,
on
they
the-
run.
And yeah, so then I was.
We
I
haven't
was
used them
using
at
it.
all.
Actually,
We barely used them except for that one day that we did the assessment.
Yeah, I was excited during the open house. My son that was here, he's in the Ambrose fifth grade arts and letters pilot. And when I went in and he said, let me show you my arts and letters work, he went to a workbook and not his Chromebook.
Right.
And he opened
Yeah.
up the workbook with apparently poor quality paper that.
They really need to up their game on the paper.
That's the paper quality. Get more cards done.
they are very open to.
Yeah, they are. They are
Tonight,
nice.
and they
Yeah.
noted that.
They're open to what?
They're really
Feedback.
good
Feedback.
feedback.
Yeah, 'cause the thicker paper is gonna cost us more money. Yeah.
Well, I asked them if it was cheaper, if we got the non-perforated.
That was just
I was
Thank you,
looking out for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, paper
Trying.
and pencil, even in fifth grade. But then I'm glad that it does look like MCAS whenever it is administered, so we never have to worry about, especially that it looks the same, so we don't have to spend more Chromebook time showing them
right.
what it's like to take a test that's administered electronically, the statewide test, MCAS. So.
I think that was one of my favorite lessons was after the assessment. I think you guys mentioned it was like a built-in lesson after the assessment where we were able to just go step by step and how do you answer these questions and really spend some time on that, which I think is valuable. So.
And just being in your son's classroom today, I really have to.
He's not here, so you can tell me everything.
But the bigger thing that I think we all want to hear about too is the listening and speaking skills. And it really is making that shared common time that kids, if you heard them today, I came downstairs and I was laughing and I think I was telling, it was somebody, I was telling you that the kids are saying, well, I would like to piggyback on that. And when you the conversation, the level I would never have heard in a classroom before. So for me, as being a principal for a very long time, it's a huge shift in that. And just the leveled playing field. Every kid in that room feels connected to this text and they're all in it to win it. They really are. And to see it is really amazing. So I give you all credit, but we don't want to lose sight of the assessments and hearing what the kids are saying and watching their interactions, because those are bigger than any paper and pencil we're ever gonna see.
Yeah, I think you can't really put a price or time on the engagement piece.
It's huge.
I mean, all of us, EL, like, there are fifth grade teachers who are doing EL. We're all saying how just it's levitated the talk, it's levitated the thinking. And it's just fun to see them. So it's really fun to see them excited to learn. They want to learn more and they're excited to take it somewhere else. And it's cool. It really is.
And somebody talked about the texts that are part of this too. You touched on this.
They're
Really
fabulous.
They're
really, and they each get them.
Describing for folks what they look like and what they like.
I wish I would have brought some of them, because
Yeah.
honestly, they are beautiful books. I mean,
That's my
We
fault.
should have brought.
That's my fault. I was supposed to bring the stuff.
No one knew that.
you know
before
what?
said it.
They're beautiful pictures. They are
One of them
everything
has,
that I would have researched and.
So you made one for us.
And that a bundle of
Great
first
text.
books.
The
Birchwood.
The Birchwood house.
I'm dying to read
We
that
are
now.
all dying
Like,
to read it.
listening to conversations, I was like, how isn't it, I'm not part of this. And it's the first in a series, so.
It's
Yeah.
really not about the adult reading. Math,
But you know what, they
Oh, we are gonna
also
start with.
there are actually also books that they haven't seen. And we haven't seen, like, I have not seen, the only book I recognized was Amos and Boris from William Steig. But,
So, for
They're
example,
really-
this is a narrative about poetry within, and then this is, wait, was that
Skytree?
Yeah, but Skytree was just.
It was, that one had a lot of art built in.
Tons of art, and then beautiful descriptions. And the little yellow leaf was a story, it was all about change. And then this was the snow crystal, and I opened it up and I was like, oh my gosh,
So that's
I cannot believe they're going to learn this, and it was amazing.
Yeah, so in arts and letters, and I think this is pretty consistent across all the grade levels and modules, it's numerous different kinds of text within each module. So you're not just getting one module that is all poetry or one that is all nonfiction. It's a mix of everything in each one, which I have really liked. I mean, students kind of inevitably have their favorites. Maybe they're not huge fans of nonfiction. So if an entire module is focused on that, it can.
We'll get to that
a little
in
bit.
February. Right,
But this is nice, 'cause it has a little bit of everything every single time.
And they're integrating, like our writing focus, this past module was narrative writing, but they integrated what they learned in the nonfiction book into their narrative writing, which was.
And they all get to do every strand of writing too, right? So they get to do informational and narrative.
Narrative and opinion.
Yeah, this is, once there was a snow crystal named Issy. She was a star-shaped snow crystal and was 8 years old. She lived on a very snowy and very icy mountain in January. First, Izzy was so cold she turned into an ice cube. Then spring came, she hoped the sun would melt her. Izzy did not want to be an ice cube for the rest of her life. Last, she was right, the sun melted her. She was happy.
In that story in Snowbook, they learned about all the different types of snow crystals, the different shapes and the different types of those shapes within the shapes, and they like integrated all of that.
And how icicles forms and melt and then reform again, so they.
all the
Preschoolers, we gotta, get it in a circle.
So,
Ready?
grade 2, you're still using UFly for phonics, and in your classrooms, you're using arts and letters. But arts and letters usually integrates with foundations, is that Melissa? Or is that EL that integrates?
It is arts and letters that typically integrates with
And
foundations.
do you feel like it still works seamlessly with UFly, with them that you're currently using?
Yes.
Most
Arts and letters never references foundation
Oh,
in
it
it.
doesn't.
No.
It's just that's
Like I wouldn't have.
historically wit and wisdom was with foundations. And arts and letters is often, because it's an evolution of wit and wisdom, integrated with foundations. They don't have a separate program, no matter what. We couldn't have adopted anything. So for us, it didn't make sense to make that shift. The one piece that arts and letters does have is decodable text called geodes, which support the knowledge building and are aligned to the skills they're learning in UFly. We didn't explore those yet this year. So that's something to consider moving forward, particularly if arts and letters were chosen. The piloteers would be great to try to see how geodes look before we made an investment district-wide to see if they're worthwhile.
Is that something you could get and try this year as part of your pilot, or is that something you don't wanna address?
I think it's something that we've been cautious about trying to add another thing for piloteers to take on. And so we have access should we have wanted them, but we made the choice to wait.
I was just making sure it was your choice.
The choice to wait so that they could use them and see if they're worthwhile thoughtfully.
You know what, I think as third grade teachers, we can put a little plug out for UFly, because this is the first year that we're getting kids who have had UFly for 3 years. And the difference in what we are getting, is shocking. Like, we get to skip so much of the word study that we were doing before because they already know it.
Excellent.
And they are better spellers by far. They understand the language of phonics you know, that we're not introducing for the first time what a syllable is. And so I think that what is happening with UFly in the lower grades, like we're using UFly, we were before, and this year we're looking at it and we're like, they're all scoring like so much further ahead that it's a waste of time to go back and do a lot of the UFly lessons because they've done them. So I think it's been really great to see that shift from a third grade perspective. So way to go.
The kids love UFly too.
They
They're
actually do.
so excited and
They
engaged
know the
with that too.
routine.
So they do, and they really enjoy it. I never in my life saw kids so excited to get a whiteboard and a marker, but they are, and every day they come with that same enthusiasm. So it's great to see.
Do you feel this is a curriculum that you're gonna be able to grow with?
Oh yeah, I feel like we will still be learning new things and more growth every single year we do it, which, you know, as someone and a lot of us have taught the same book, you know, I don't know how many times I've taught Winn-Dixie, great book, but I personally am like, I can't. But these books.
You know what happens.
Yeah, I know what happens.
You know?
No,
I
got all
know.
the spoilers.
All I wanna do is spoil it. But these books are so like dense that every time you look at them, there is something new that pops out. And I don't think even as a teacher you get bored from it. I think
Oh, and I was in Anne's class this morning observing and just watching, and the kids were making so many connections to the different texts. Like, so I think those new connections continue to happen, you know, with
yeah, we were just starting a new book and they were like, well, it's kind of like an Amos and Boris.
Right. That from weeks ago.
Like
Right.
that was in September,
Yeah.
it was long ago. So, and I think that's a testament to them all being centered around the same idea, is that it allows them to make deeper connections because we're revisiting the same thing in different ways.
I think as far as growing too, I had a curriculum like this when I started in Winchester. Like I remember my first year here being kind of all over the place, like, oh, we don't have a
Oh, I
mandated
have that.
curriculum, and it was kind of like, you know, you have the freedom, but there's so many things you can do with the freedom. You almost need that foundation. So it's been a really great experience.
Do you feel it will give you freedom as you go along to add things in?
I do.
I
build
do,
on it,
yeah.
Yeah.
as the kids get used to it.
The program also has like resources online to help expand learning too. They have a whole running list of further books that you could provide the students if they're really interested in certain topics. So they seem to understand that interest sparks different curiosities, and they seem to already be providing some of those materials alongside the ones that are in our daily lessons. They have like an ongoing list of other books about fall, other books about snow crystals that we could always grab from if we wanted to continue with one area in particular.
And you know what, the visual piece, I'm surprised because I feel like the third grade slideshows do have a lot of visuals. And what I love actually about those slides is it's telling them what we just said. So when it gets to like a writing piece and they'll say, I don't know what are we doing? I don't have to say it 10 more times. It's like right there, and they know it now. So they're not spending time looking for things, finding things. Oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. Everything is like right there. And I think that's been a huge time saver.
So I'll just observe, you know, and I'm so glad that you are asking questions because you're in the classroom every day. You know, I come, you know, as a dad of a former Lynchies for 10 years, but no longer Lynchies.
Not one student for 10 years.
No, still. Equal, spread out 5 years apart, he gave us 10 years. But so, you know, I guess my perspective is more, you know, on school committee oversight point of view. What really excites me about the presentation is, you know, that seeing all the excitement in your eyes and stories, but that it's the people who are the experts. It's not, you know, us or the district telling you what to do, but you guys are really piloting and really finding out what works. It's a true, you know, laboratory of innovation and experimentation and figuring out, you know, how do we adjust things and how do we make it work? And we're piloting multiple programs. And so, you know, I can see that sort of innovation and the sort of energy that unlocks, which is really, really exciting. I took 2 pages of notes, but my sort of headline was, you know, that I'm taking away is sort of working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And I look at this and, you know, the assessments and the differentiated supports, you have the learning books and the portfolios, so you can see your progress and you have these feedback loops in what you're doing. The cognitive load mentioned really hit me because I remember being that kid who was sitting there, you know, like focused on, okay, like, how many more pages? What, you know, like what's the next thing, and not actually comprehending the material. Because I was so caught up in the mechanics of what I was doing. You know, the visuals and the different, you know, the poetry versus the fiction versus the nonfiction. You know, so it gives kids with different learning styles the ability to excel in whatever area is. You know, so often I felt like so much was taught the same way that was the way you learned. It was great. If that was not the way you learned, not so great. So that's really cool. I heard that in here, the participatory learning, you know, the equal access across all the schools. You know, there was just so much in here that it just, and then to see the sort of excitement as each of you talk about different pieces of it. It's like, you know, just a few of these would be great. But there's so many areas that, you know, in the business world, we'd say this is working smarter, not harder. Here before, we might have done a lot of more brute force. And here there's a lot of great tools, it sounds like. And so my only question, I guess, would be, you know, what can we do to get out of your way or provide support, or, you know, what, you know,
Give us planning time. We want more time. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like it's the time, it's the real, it's not the work. It's having the time for us to collaborate together. That's really huge, because especially like I think about next year, if like we're having to learn the other curriculum, we'll be restarting, and also everyone will be going through it. And so I just see it as the time that we can spend together is hugely valuable. Like, we got to go and visit our colleagues, I just did this the other day. I got to go in Allison's room and the other 2 teachers. And one of the best things that came out of it was, first of all, like, oh, thank God, I'm on track. We're okay. But what was great was to see that we all were doing the same thing, in a sense that I didn't go in Allison's room and see her do something and think, my God, I didn't know I'm supposed to be teaching that too. I didn't teach that yet. That wasn't the figurative language I had. So I think there was a real sense of like community, and that we're all doing the same thing, and that we all, the kids are too, right? Yeah, it goes back to it. Like, yeah, that shared experience. Yeah.
I'd say that definitely resonates with the world I'm in is, you know, community building with business leaders, but it's a lot of it is peer learning. And so when I hear you talk, it's the same with sustainability leaders or any others, that being able to get together with your peers that are facing the same challenges that you are, you know, first of all, it's very validating. You know, you can find those easy wins and shortcuts. You can figure out, you know, how do people, when they do hit a wall, you know, how have you solved this and how did it work out? You know, so yeah, so you can hear that on the more time for more of that kind of stuff. Great, thank you. Thank you all for like taking on the extra work of doing this. This is
above and beyond, especially coming here tonight. No, it's been a long day.
On that night, she would go.
Right along.
Yeah, I think.
And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
And on behalf of the school committee, I have flowers for each of the principals to take back. I love you to brought some on each of the pilots. Yeah, and ours now. Just to let everyone know how much we appreciate all the work that you're doing. And that we know that this is a huge lift I have said before that it's like being a first year teacher all over again. Being able to take all the time to do this. So I.
You're right. Yes. Just to let everybody know.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Very nice. Oh, is it me? Oh, yeah. So I promise I won't go too far off script, but as I sat here and listened, it was hard not to really get invigorated and reinvigorated when I heard words like connections, joy, excitement, engagement.
If you don't have any further questions for the teachers, are you okay if they
Go.
go?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah,
We heard them use words like empowerment. They talked about students thinking deeply. And we also heard shared experience that came up just a little bit ago. And so I think as we talk about our highlights, that was exciting for us as a leadership team. We dove into some shared PD experiences this year with Dr. Julia Yee and Dr. Lisa Deeker. And they provided their expertise to nearly all the K-5 staff members at the beginning of the school year and this fall during a shared experience, which was exciting. And they did that through the lens of readiness to learn. And so to have those shared experiences enriches everything that we do in terms of our literacy development together.
And you talked about, you kind of answered, you kind of took my slide. No. So I just wanted to highlight that going into this school year, so this summer, the elementary leadership team really took a hard look at the academic schedule because we wanted to, and made some important changes because we wanted to ensure that the schedule really captured and allowed the integrity of each of these evidence-based programs to happen. So as Melissa said, what that looks like really K-5. So we didn't just do this for piloting classrooms. Is 1 hour of knowledge building literacy instruction, 1 hour of the differentiation, which is where you would fit in that prologue, and then the half an hour of word study, really K-5. So that the exciting news is, and we did that in a very cohesive way that would make sense to teachers and to students, so it wasn't choppy. And the exciting news is that has really helped teachers to teach with integrity and allowed it to kind of flow in their day. So and that, as you said, as we talked about, that writing is also built into the schedule, whereas that was separate. In past years, it is really built into the program. So that has been a big shift, but it has been a very positive one. So that's great. And then also just something, and you witnessed it tonight, that we're so excited about is just the discourse and the rich conversations that we're hearing between teachers and specialists and coaches and administrators. It has been truly a joy to be learning alongside everyone, and we really are learning alongside everyone. It has been a privilege and a joy, and it's been really amazing to watch. So I got for that.
And so going into all of this, I know we had talked a lot about for the pilots here, it's important that they get the professional development, and that started in the summer. Everybody that chose or was chosen to pilot started out in June for some of them, and then some of them were in August, but they were able to learn together, and we've continued that throughout the year. So just yesterday, Arts and Letters met at Winch, and they had professional development from the trainer, and so we also felt it was important the trainers were training, and then we have time when Melissa was able to run things and unpack the modules with everybody, and they're learning together. So our last full PD day, the piloteers had a whole day together, which was great. And we were able to be involved in that as well. So again, we're learning along.
So, I'm sorry, so that ED session at Lynch happened during school hours or outside of school hours? So during school hours, so we wouldn't be able to do that once we roll it out next year, right? That would have to be a half day somewhere. We can't have all of the teachers.
Correct, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
they'll-
It's very tricky to.
Coverage
Yeah.
is tricky.
And that brings me to our hurdles, but I'd rather talk about them in areas we have to grow in rather than call them hurdles. But scheduling, as you heard from Kathy, it was a challenge for us to do that because it was a shift from what we normally had done. So while we did it at the end of the summer this year, kind of in a panic, I will say, we know that we have to get better at it. So as an elementary team, we've already begun the conversations of what will the schedule look like. We've started now. We're really, projecting with our new programs what we'll need, which also takes into consideration coverage for collaboration and PD. And here you have the magicians of the Winchester Public Schools, because we are covering and we're doing a really nice job. But it's been a challenge for us to have an entire grade level go over to Lynch and to participate in these things. And while we know we need to do them, so it's definitely impacted. And the limited amount of PD days and professional development time that we have. So we need to maximize that. And so we turn to our collaborative planning times that we have each week with these teams. And it really helps us too, to have a window into what's happening in their classrooms when we can't be in there. So that's a hurdle or an area to grow, but we're excited about the growth because it's just bringing on some great things.
Adrian, are they getting time to go and watch other classrooms?
Yes.
Who teach the same curriculum?
Yes.
Are they getting time to watch, like, the pilot teachers teaching EL to watch?
Yeah, so I'm so glad. you
Arts and
asked
others to
that.
watch EL and EL.
It's so exciting. This past couple of weeks, we have kindergarten and grade 5 piloting. So our kindergarten went up to grade 5 and our 5 went down to K, and we did give them time to debrief the best we could to actually talk about the different things they saw, because one's doing arts and letters and one's doing EL. So it was a really great experience. And then they were getting time to go across to grade levels. And then non-piloters will also have an opportunity to get into classrooms to see these lessons too. So it's really exciting.
We go live on December 3rd with the classrooms opening up to others. So November, they were tasked with visiting each other and the same pilots in their own buildings because principals could manage that coverage. And now we're sort of opening up on a bigger scale. The piloteers were allowed to provide, or were invited to provide feedback about what that would look like. So the piloteers are telling us how many other adults they're comfortable with in their classroom, how long they wanted them in there, and then feedback about what the tool will look like as we collect data about what those classroom visits look like. So we're excited. We put out our December calendar yesterday afternoon, and when I looked this morning, December was full. So January is almost full, and so piloteers are really willing, and I think our non-piloteers are going to be super excited to get into other classrooms.
Like a Taylor Swift ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to log into Vector. First come, first serve.
So the coverage is a hurdle, but it's also really exciting because the teachers are using that and they're enjoying this. Again, it goes back to that shared experience and that collaboration, and we're watching our vision actually come to life. And we're providing those opportunities. I know my first grade was having a little difficulty with some aspects of implementing EL. So they reached out to Kara, who's the trainer, and they had a Zoom with her during one of our CPTs where she unpacked one of the modules. And then she came the following week and did another that wasn't during the CPT. So again, I found coverage, but they were excited and willing to do this. So I'm more than happy to find the coverage. And they met with her again and she modeled a language dive. And then on Tuesday, I was in one of the first grade classrooms and watched everything that she had taught us on the Zoom the teacher was then doing. I watched her act out the sun, and I watched her, do the bow and arrow when she was talking about the target. So it's exciting to see that they are willing to put this effort in to learn it with integrity and really be working to implement whatever program it is that we go with. And we're willing to put in the time. Sometimes it's really hard because there just aren't people, when you only have so many ISS, even if we posted more and no one wants to do, so then it's, how are we gonna do it? Okay, I'll go teach this class and Donna will do this coverage, and maybe we take 2 classes together for just a short, half hour, but we're making it work because it's so worthwhile and the teachers are so excited about it. So in one way it's a hurdle, but really I think it's actually more exciting than anything else.
And I will say principals have been very gracious with all of the asks that we've given them for coverage. Can you cover this so we can do this? Can you cover this? And the answer is always yes. This morning we went and brought a team from Ellis School to Arlington. So like they are very accepting of all of the demands that I've been asking in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, even our new LOA went.
Yeah,
so it was great.
The year sounds like a lot that goes on that.
It is going fast.
I think your pilot need capes.
Yeah.
We
But then
did
next
have,
year we'll have 5 grade levels that will.
We'll have a lot of capes.
There'll be a lot of capes flying around.
So we'll have we did have some piloteers at the VO who dressed as pilots for Halloween.
That's
great. Yeah, we had a contest and I was like, oh,
Did they
that's
win?
good. They came second.
Okay.
We had a Colonel Sanders and chicken, so that was good. But they good. Pretty close.
Wait, Chrissy,
That's that, yeah. I just wanna go back to, Michelle, you talked about it being a year, and I can't really state enough how fortunate we are to have the whole year to do this. I have many former colleagues in many towns surrounding the area where they're literally piloting 2 to 3 programs in a month or 2 months and having to make the decision, and this has been, it has been true. And,
You don't know what they're doing.
yeah, so I just feel like that's really important to say, because we have, although it's been a lot of time and effort, I think it's been really well used, and I think it will help us come to a really informed decision that is best for our community. All right, so the teachers aren't the only ones that have gotten to do walkthroughs. It has been our administrative team has also had the pleasure of going as a team to the different schools, walk through arts and letters classrooms and EL classrooms. And what you saw is real. So we saw just incredible, like high levels of student engagement. The teachers though are the ones bringing this to life. And I feel like we can't state that enough, that no matter what program we choose, it's really the teachers and the art of teaching that is going to bring these programs to life. And that's exactly what we're seeing. They're tweaking, they're getting these kids up and they're moving, and they're incorporating lots of fun into it, and the kids are thriving. They are, I mean, I think, we would go in and observe and then come out and like have, a little conversation and debrief, and then, it was like hard to stop talking to go into the next class to observe. So much excitement. It was just so amazing to see. The academic discourse you talked about, Andrea, they all talked about it, but basically I was in a 4th grade class the other day, and a student raised his hand and he said, well, just as Robert Frost was inspired by, I forget what, this other poet is inspired by, and I find a connection there, and I'm like, what grade are we in? So
walking by the
amazing.
woods on a snowy evening.
Yes. The authentic text that we already talked about, they have real books in their hands. They're beautiful books. They're culturally proficient. They're really stunning books that kids can dive very deeply into. And what we're seeing is just kids growing in every area: reading comprehension, fluency, listening and speaking, and writing. So, and it's all
tied together, which has been really, and very structured, I will add. So it's not, you know, this all sounds very pie in the sky, but unless you see it in action, it's very structured and intentional instruction, and I think that has been amazing to see. And so I'm gonna pass it over to Chrissy, who has actual students.
Yes, I was lucky enough to chat with some students to get their input on what both of the programs look like. So at Lynch, we have third grade is doing arts and letters, and fifth grade is doing EL. So I kind of did like a little interview session with the kids, which was super fun. And some of the things that they had to share in fifth grade, I'll start with them. So they really like the books that they're reading. They have common themes. One student shared with me that she always liked to read graphic novels, but now after having read Esperanza Rising, she has moved on into longer chapter books. And she has found that she's choosing books that have a theme, like Esperanza Rising. So she's reading a book that has like hope and determination, and she's really excited about that. Another student shared that when they have all block, one of the things that they do is they practice their fluency, and she said, and I've actually watched them do it, it's really cool. So they practice, and another student kind of listens to them and gives them feedback. She said, I really feel like, you know, my tone is better now. I'm able to stop at, you know, punctuation. That's great. She's learning so much. What else do they say? You know, in fifth grade, you're nervous about going to middle school, and I sat with a couple of boys, and they're like, I really feel like we're prepared now. There's a lot of writing. Like we're like way more prepared than they would when we go to bed. And I don't really know like what the day looks like before this, but we're really prepared now. I think you are too. You can go tomorrow.
Earlier than normal.
Right. Another student in fifth grade shared that there's so much more writing. She said it's super structured, which is great. There's a lot more writing, and she needs to build her stamina because her hand hurts from writing so much. So that into consideration. So fifth grade loves it. They like the book that they've read so far, and they're looking forward to the next book, which they're starting very soon. Third grade arts and letters. They really like that that they're focused on a topic, but there's different books to go along with it. They do like the art piece. One boy that I was chatting with today said poetry, he doesn't really like poems, but now after he's read a couple of poems from arts and letters, he started to write a little poetry. So it's actually, it was great to listen to the kids. They're doing a lot more discussion, which they like. One girl shared, she's like, I really like to talk, so I don't really like when it's like the teacher talk time. But when it's discussion time, when we get to be with our partner, or when we do the listening, and then we get to talk about those questions. So talking to the kids is great. I mean, watching them in action is amazing. It's like so great to see them. So it's fun to do that. Walk around, chat with them. It's great feedback.
I know we have trouble getting video releases, but it would be great if there was some audio or some conversation.
I did think about that.
Because hearing the conversations, I think is different than even, I love that everybody will share it so much tonight, but I think it's hard to really appreciate the and understanding what the value of it is for kids and what they're getting out of it, and the access to the text, because there's such high level text in both of these curriculum.
You could send that to our video production department.
Maybe we can ask some of the kids come in.
We could,
Yeah.
we
It
tried
might be
to get some
awkward with that.
videos, but we didn't have time.
Yeah, and it's even more than hearing their feedback, it's actually hearing those conversations. It's like being kids are people that hear. Right, the fly on the wall,
Yeah, the leadership walkthroughs that we did were just invaluable, really, to like, remember when they got up to do the mix and mingle? Yes, mix and mingle. And they're like walking around the
And then the next, who wants to talk? And they're like, they were really looking for another person to talk to. It wasn't just like, you know, I mean, I think we've all sort of tried these strategies, but they had something concrete. They'd already talked through what they were gonna say. They wrote down what they were gonna say, and then it was time for them to share. So they had something prepared. So it was accessible to every child. This was only in second grade, at VO. So they were so excited because they knew they would meet with success at every level. And then so the accessibility was exciting. And then also I think for me, seeing the co-teachers and really not knowing who was the special educator and who was the teacher, and seeing that they could like both be up there teaching the lesson, and then one might go back and help a child, and then the other one would come back, and it was seamless and really what we've always wanted co-teaching to be, but it's hard to do when you don't have a curriculum and the lead teacher's the one making it, and then the special educator's just trying to catch up. I mean, right now we're lucky because they're learning it together too, so they're really in it together and collaborating in that way. But I've never seen that kind of like true co-teaching before these programs.
Mm-hmm. I've been looking forward to tonight ever since Ms. Kirby came and talked with us about the high level update a little over a month ago, and it didn't disappoint at all. It was amazing just to hear from the teachers about their experiences with students, and just the way they describe the excitement in the books. I'm one who has always loved just like the tactile feel of a book and flipping pages and the colors, and I could just tell those are these books that I would just love to have read. And just hearing about the conversations that you've been able to listen to and witness, and that you were talking about, you've captured some of that excitement, and that was really eye-opening for me. And also hearing about, I think Ms. Nargi was asking questions about the assessments, and hearing how the teachers were describing how things are more integrated with the writing and reading and everything. I think that's really exciting to hear. Good work, good use of working time. And then just the collaboration between the teachers, being able to visit each other's classrooms, see, and then with these visits coming up across the district in the next month, it's just really exciting to hear. What a great opportunity for the teachers to learn from each other and see what's going on in the classroom and see the consistency. I think we were talking about that as well. And then just hearing the stories from the VO teachers, the Lidge teachers, the experiences from Ambrose, and just really amazing to hear. So I guess looking forward to those next steps and hearing more about class visits. And then I understand that we're looking towards the recommendation coming from the team in March of next year to Dr. Hackett. And then Dr. Hackett will bring a recommendation.
Now I'm picking it
us.
So.
A lot of stuff going on.
Thanks for your input.
I don't know that we need to go over all of this again. The leaders have alluded to how much we've been just working to support them, but we're using every moment we possibly can to do PD. So grade level meetings are coming up in December. We're going to launch the observation protocol and hear from piloteers again, so that the teachers who are not piloting are constantly in communication with how it's going. We've added some resources to support teachers with their data use. And then most importantly, we're just continuing to support them as they go. We used the full PD day to support piloteers, and the feedback from staff was overwhelmingly positive. They were very grateful for the time together to hear vertically, to hear across pilots, and then that we included their voices in all of the decision-making that we're doing. So that was really great. And we're going to continue that with our literacy focus. And then, as Stephanie alluded to, we've been on our literacy tour going to all of the schools, giving our little conversation with caregivers around sort of the updates that you're getting tonight. So we've done 4 schools. Morocco is Monday, and that will round out the 5 schools tours. And then I think we're going to present to the WINPAC. And so just having great conversations with families and caregivers as we've been out at schools, Laurie and I, answering questions, going over some of the changes that they're seeing and revisions we're making, and just trying to make sure everyone has the information.
Just one thing came to my mind. Just as we distribute dibbles for K-2, we send that data home to families. Excuse me. Regardless of where they are, if they're green, yellow, red, everyone gets that data. It'd be great if we use the assessments that we get from whatever program and send that data home to families for 3 to 5 to get that kind of feedback.
So
because the tools are so readily accessible and it seems like they're administered enough that it seems like it would be easy to do, but I don't know.
So for grade 3, we also send home the dibbles because we're required to, yep. And then the tricky piece with the performance assessments is that dibbles comes with a pretty packaged parent report that puts all of that information in place and contextualizes it really. And the performance assessments are intended to guide instruction in the classroom. So they don't look that same way. They don't produce an individual report the way that dibbles would. You would just see the student work, which we are sending home in the learn books and such. So an assessment that has like a parent side like that would be something separate from these programs.
As easy as putting out the same report that the teacher's reading.
Yeah, it doesn't quite look like that, because what the teachers are getting the report on is how the students are doing so that they can group them efficiently and then think about next instructional steps.
Okay.
So it's not really like apples to apples for that kind of thing.
Because the new M-Class tool is so valuable because it shows ways that you can support at home.
Yeah.
And it helps guide those conversations, not just during the parent-teacher conference, but ongoing with your child. So it's just something for, I guess, 4 and 5, for grades 4 and 5, to have a similar kind of feedback and support system that we can put together.
Yeah, I think we can bring that feedback for sure to our ELT 2.0 as they're looking at our assessment revisions.
And there are tips for families built into the curriculum as well.
Yeah, the letters did go home to all the families at the start of each unit. There are opportunities to invite parents in. So 5th grade at the Lynch had one of the teachers' mothers in as part of the community involvement to speak about food scarcity and how that related to the experience. So both Arts and Letters and EL have either extension opportunities that involve the community or bookends that involve the community. So the teachers are being thoughtful about how they're doing that as well. But there is that Letters for Family. And then there's also some family resources that each program has just in a bigger picture about how to support the curriculum. Not quite exactly what you're asking for though in terms of assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a different kind of assessment.
Yes.
Dibbles is more of a screening tool to identify like at-risk skills.
Yes.
And this is more an assessment of learning.
Within, embedded in what they're learning to guide what you're teaching next as part of their learning. So something that would be comparable in terms of like thinking about, Dibbles does go to grade 5, it goes up actually through grade 8, but something like the NEA map or the iReady or the STAR, those are more bigger picture assessments that would have a parent component versus these embedded in the curriculum tools that we have.
All right.
So unless you have any other questions, we're just grateful for this opportunity to share with you all of the exciting things that are happening. I know Winchester had some great things happening before, but it's really exciting to see it in action this year.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have on the agenda. On the agenda. Oh, okay. I thought you might not have heard me. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. We will circle back, I guess, to the consent agenda, which consisted of the Elks Lodge annual grant of $200, The Anchor Society grant of $750, the Anchor Society grant of $2,000 for research databases for McCall staff and students, and the Winchester Basketball Association gift of benches, and the Ambrose PTO donation for the media center, and the minutes from October 9th. And I would accept a motion.
I would make a motion, but, and, you know, obviously gratitude for all of these, but, you know, as we had, you know, discussed earlier, the, particular gratitude to the Anchor Society for stepping up where others are cutting back.
Yes, yes.
And,
correct.
and again, I would second the motion, but I just, what was the large donation to the Andrews Media Center?
That's the book fair.
Oh, okay.
All
Thank
of
you.
the, so now all the PTOs before, this is actually a change in protocol. This
Okay,
is a book fair, that's a fundraiser run by all of 5 PTOs. And now it goes, those funds usually used to be managed by the PTOs
Yeah.
separately for their libraries. Now those funds are being transferred to central office and being held for example, the Ambrose Library here. For central office.
lovely change. Thank you.
And then I was just going to say, I'll just piggyback on what you were saying with the $2,000 donation from the Anchor Society. Because of some federal funding cutbacks or cuts, how it boils down at a local level is that some databases that our staff and students had used at McCall are no longer being funded. And so the McCall librarian had reached out to the Anchor Society asking if they might be able to fund there are 5 databases. And the Anchor Society said that they would be able to fund 2 of the databases. So they've gotten 2 back, and then the library is going to go, the librarian here is going to reach out to some other organizations to try and get funding for the other databases. But they were important because it was part of the media center, and for students and teachers were using them for their own work, and then helping students to be able to use and learn about research.
They're fortunate to have
stuff. Yeah.
community organizations support the schools.
We have a motion and a second.
Oh, yes, all in favor?
Aye.
That's okay, I lost the second.
No, that's right. Make sure we voted.
That's right. Okay, so moving right along, go down to reports and action items. So we have a DESI review update. I'm going to take that.
I will take it for a second and turn it over to Dr. Allen, who has been thoroughly engaged. I think enjoying, I don't know if that's too strong.
Probably.
Just a smidge.
But I also want to publicly thank her for what she's taken on with this review. They love to say it's not a heavy lift. Of course, it's easy for them to say when they contract it out to other people, but it is a heavy lift, and it's a ton of work, and she is running the point on all of it and giving me deadlines that I'm, I don't know, meeting maybe 50% of them. But feeling the pressure, let me tell you that, okay, because then I heard the big deadline is this week, so.
She doubled her monitors to make up for your.
It's good, right, she's doing good, right, she has 2 screens.
Standard spaces.
But it is a lot of work, and I appreciate it, and I know Corey and we see it firsthand, so.
Absolutely.
It's a team effort, so there have been hundreds of documents uploaded, and they're certainly not all in my drive, so it has been a full team lift. So I'll be brief because I know the night is still young, but I'm happy to answer any questions tonight or any follow-up questions if anyone has. So typically DESI audits are focused. We have many audits that we have regularly, and they're on predictable cycles, and they have focus indicators for like special education, civil rights, multilingual, our grants, our financial. So all of those audits we're very accustomed to. This audit is a new and exciting audit. As Frank said, they have to outsource it to do it because they don't have the personnel to do it. So they call this more of a comprehensive audit. So I just dropped the visual in here so that you can see the different, and my eyes are falling out of my head by now with all my time on my screen. So
I'm gonna look at my own screen just to quickly go over. I'm not gonna read each bullet, but just these are the categories that they're focusing on: our leadership and governance, our curriculum and instruction, our assessment practices, our financial and asset management, our student supports, and our human resources and professional development. And then under each of those, they have their main indicators, all of which require many, many documents for it. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of boils down what their approach looks like. So I put it this way, so this is my interpretation, just disclaimer. They have kind of three branches going. So they have a document review, and like Frank says, we're bumping up against the deadline. We consider it 11:59 p.m. Sunday night. They may interpret it tomorrow, but that's not right. So the document review, so just to give you one example, one piece of one folder of one tiny smidge of this is every administrator's evaluation in the district and 15% of our teacher evaluations. And that's every document for an evaluation, from a self-assessment to a goal setting to observations to formatives to summatives. So all of those had to be uploaded to all of them to view, and then many documents that hit all of the other indicators. And that's what they kind of review both before they come and then when they leave, because our understanding is it takes a while for the report to come because they spend a little time going back through our documents. They are on-site. Happy holidays. The week of December 8th is our week-long visit. And for that piece, they do both questionnaires and interviews. So the questionnaires are predominantly for leadership, that we all had to fill those out ahead of time. And then the interviews are predominantly students and staff, although they do meet with all of the central office people, and they will have a principal group. Those are kind of their two ways to gather that data. And then there are also family interviews, and some lucky school committee members will be in an interview. And so they meet with union leadership. So these are our schedule is not finalized with them. They're hoping to finalize by tomorrow. So we're happy to share back out that schedule too, so you can see all the different groups that they interviewed and met with. Lots of different teacher groups, teachers from each building, and then teachers like specialized groups, special ed and multilingual learners. And then they have a whole principal group, so they try to hit on all the different groups represented in the district. And then classroom observations are what I'm kind of considering that third branch. So we upload every master schedule, what everyone's doing on the days that they come. They spend a whole day at McCall, a whole day at the high school, and then they have, it's outsourced, so they have lots of teams. So then they have teams that will go to all of the elementary schools as well. We do not get to know who they're seeing or what they're seeing. So, obviously all of the teachers will know the day that they're coming, but we have sent the message, do your thing. You're doing fabulous work. Just go about your day as if it's normal, and someone may or may not be into your room. Andrew, if you could just click on the focus indicators under the classroom observations, there should be a hyperlink there. Thank you. So this is just here again, I'm not going to read this for all of you now, but this is just so you have a view of kind of what they're looking for when they go into the classrooms, and they will be rating based on all of these things. And that will be part of their final report based on what they see in the classrooms.
Are they escorted by the building principals when they enter?
They are, they have not asked to be escorted, but that will be part of our next Zoom tomorrow, is to hear some more specifics about that. That looks like. And so just the last slide is just logistics and next steps of what's coming up. Again, we're currently uploading the last of our documents. They are currently already reviewing documents and asking questions. Again, December 8th, big week. They will do an exit interview, at least with Frank, and then we will have our final report at a later date. I did also, just for your reading pleasure, not as good as this kind of story time, but there's a hyperlink there too, just so you can see all the specifics of what they're looking for under each of the standards and indicators. This is a fairly new process.
I was
that
gonna
they've
ask,
taken on,
there was
yeah.
a previous protocol.
Yeah, so it's a little, you can tell even that they're, the organization is AIR, American Institute for Research. So clearly they've done these kinds of things before, but even they were saying like, we didn't even get our checklist until the end of September for everything they needed because DESE was still updating and coming up with things based on their few districts that they've already done. And they're, what's that?
Are any of them our peer towns?
There is at least one peer town that was done. The Hackett household has enjoyed this for 2 years in a row now. There is no, unlike the other audits, there is no clear criteria how districts are chosen. It's just a handful of districts.
Interestingly,
Yes.
Lexington and Winchester within a year of each other. I don't know.
Yes, very new kind of program, yes. So there is no, unlike everything else that is either, there's a criteria for every other audit. It's either everybody gets it on a rotation, or if you're targeted because of this, you get this. This seems to just be a handful. They say it as a handful of districts chosen each year.
How long roughly until we will see the final report?
Well, it sounds like it will be a while, but I don't have a solid date yet, but I can ask that question tomorrow too. So.
And can they pull any documents related to any decimal system?
Like, say more. Let me what you mean.
I guess I'm curious to know the range of documents that they're looking for, like.
So it's interesting.
The broad categories of documents that they're looking for. Are they looking at student IEPs, for example? Are they looking at?
They have not asked for any student IEPs. There are probably, 15 or 20 things where they may have said specifically what they'd like to see.
Mm-hmm.
But of all of the rest, it's just on us to provide evidence that we do all of
So
these
us being
things.
central office or
As a
building administrators,
district.
is this gonna create more work for our teachers and administrators and?
It's definitely,
administrators?
it's definitely more work for the
Okay.
administrators. We did not ask anything from the teachers.
Okay.
And we are in the final steps of that, so everyone has put their more work time in. But yeah, it's definitely documents that would mostly come from leadership, involve teachers, like PD things, like faculty meetings, but
Yeah.
the administrators would provide.
But we've
that.
had to create documents, like
Oh.
they said we didn't have to create them, but we absolutely.
So this is just
Have
taking
to.
more
Because you had
time
to
and
pull
work,
data
more
and
of your hours.
information.
Exactly.
Documents
In the
like,
way
you
that they
know,
want
right,
it,
in the
they-
way they want it.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason why I was asking if the principals are going to support the assessors, is because, as you know, when a new person enters a classroom, everyone's like, are you so-and-so's? Are you so-and-so's mom? But if you walk in with the principal, they know to just ignore the principal.
Yeah, like they always do when we're walkthroughs, right?
Do walkthroughs and classroom
I have to
observations all
say,
the time.
Stephanie, if they walk into a literacy pilot classroom, kids won't even ask.
Right.
They're just like, oh, there's more people here.
Observing us.
Yeah.
This is our chance to complain about the paper quality.
And lunch.
And lunch.
Bring back the pizzas.
Any other things though, because tomorrow is our final Zoom before they visit, or is there anything else that you would like me to ask that I could put that on?
Consequences, like what is the, it's a report, is it a report card, is it?
We never asked those questions,
Well, what did Lexington
because they
get?
might not have thought of
Because we're
that.
gonna have to beat it.
Go on.
Okay, no pressure. Because we have exactly the same amount of administrators to do this.
Yes, I will say the
Well, what does
Lexington,
the end report look like?
well, the Lexington report, they are online if you wanna go see them, on DESE. Lexington report was riddled with how much central office staff and supports there are. Which, so I just wanna make sure ours is reflective.
How little?
There's,
central
okay,
office?
here's what you have for the standard that
Yeah.
you commented on. In comparison, what would you say?
Yeah.
There is not the same kind of consequences that there are with our other audits,
Yeah.
as that you get put on like a corrective action plan, you have
Okay. That's
progress reports that you need to, right, it's a very public, lengthy report that will go in, I can't remember how long Lexington's was, but it was really.
And is it more just fact finding on their end, data collecting to help?
Is it, I'm sorry, what?
Is it more data collecting? Is that the purpose of this for the state?
That's a good question. They don't really, they start with, I always say this when I talk to people about it, I'll try to minimize my sarcasm. They start with saying, yeah. They're like, this is why we're allowed to do this. They come right out with the statute that says this, we have the right to do this. We're like, okay, we do. So it doesn't really, it doesn't really go into all of those pieces.
Is it fair to say it's almost like a verification process? Like they take every single thing that we're supposed to be doing and verify whether we're doing it or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I mean, it's hard to tell if they're really like, well, they're obviously evaluating individual districts, but I'm making this up now. This is not anything they say, but my guess is because they contracted out with this third party who are researchers, they're trying to gather some data around what's actually happening in districts versus what's right, what they say should be happening in districts.
Do we have any sense if this is tied to, in any way, to the work that's going on at the state level to recalculate Chapter 70 and foundation formula? No, it's not.
We're not aware that that has any connection at all.
And it doesn't feel like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels very,
The surveyor, please.
yeah, it feels also like, it's hard to tell yet because the people who meet with you ahead of time are just a couple of point people. So I don't know what the whole team will be like, but it's also very interesting because they're not necessarily people that are really involved in what actually happens in public schools versus.
Or life. Well, sorry.
That's all right. See, I'm trying to tamp down my sarcasm.
You're doing a heck of a job. Let me tell you that, Dr. Alabama.
So are they have a data information gathering firm than an educational evaluation, which is more with the special ed?
I would say that it does feel like that,
It
but when
feels
you read the
different.
report, it doesn't feel like that. It feels very much like they're evaluating you in your performance.
Okay.
It is very, yeah, and it's
on the
in,
word performance.
yeah, it's interesting too, because the people that go into the classrooms, like the little blurb that they give us to send out to people, like, says, again, this is what I have to write on the sarcasm. It literally says, we're very qualified to do this because everybody's had 2 days of training. That does that.
To observe in
go.
a classroom.
There it is.
Yeah.
So
2 full days, though.
They do say 2 full days.
2 full days. Well, it's that,
Now-
it's those full days that really count.
Yeah, so we don't know who that team is, so
Yes,
these people may have had lots of prior experience, right?
Right.
But it just reads to the educators in the district like, that makes you qualified to come in and judge my teaching now, that you had 2
Right.
days of training, so we don't know if they're people who have been educators before, or if they've ever had leadership. We certainly know not all of the people on the team have had leadership experience, which obviously the difference with leadership is just you've had a ton of training about observing in classrooms and all
And
of
you've
that.
been in a ton of calls.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Right.
Classrooms.
Which we just don't know with the
Say.
cases with the team, but it definitely comes back. Like just even when you do your bedtime reading and you click on that link about what they are evaluating on, they are assigning points on everything that they see. So we just don't know how trained they are to do that other than the 2 full days.
It strikes me just as I listen to this and try to rationalize it to some degree, that I'm hypothesizing here that the DESIR, this third party group, they're probably looking out across the state and saying, well, there's a lot of schools
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are doing well and some of them aren't doing maybe as well. And maybe it would be helpful if we understood what they're doing in sort of a comparative scorecard sort of way, but they don't know what the criteria for the scorecard might be. And so they're kind of saying, well, let's look at lots of stuff. I mean, like the 15% of staff, you know, I'm like, wow, that's a lot, but it forces you not to be able to cherry pick.
Yeah.
It just says here's a very large sample of staff. So I wonder if, again, my assuming positive intent that, and with sarcasm, maybe they don't really know what they're doing, but they know that there's like a lot of stuff happening in a lot of schools and they don't really know, you know, because schools are different. Some do it this way and some do it that way. And so you can't just say, let's look at the Winchester way or the Lexington way and apply that to the Commonwealth. You probably have to dig a little bit deep.
I think, but to that point, because it's, you know, it's a new process and they only select a handful. I think they're trying to get some standardization of performance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me that they probably are picking what would be considered higher performing school systems to say, you know, what are they doing? And then when they start looking at other school systems.
And force them all to do it.
Well, no, but I mean, it's just,
create a rubric that makes sense for them.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have a performance metric, they don't, you know what I mean, they,
But
rubrics for.
Yes,
I would-
should we be doing that though, as a school, like? should-
Oh, well, no, is the
Right.
answer to that question.
Right, so that's, I
Yeah.
just wanted to
Yeah.
go back, cause I mean, I feel like we're like almost endorsing that, and I feel like the value of education in Massachusetts is local control, because we can do what we did today, right now, right, and have the, but what we're doing and the way we're doing it might not be the right way to do it in even another
Right.
high-performing school district, in Weston, in Wellesley, in Taunton, in, you know.
But they have some responsibility for understanding what's happening. You know, even if they don't infringe on local control, which maybe.
I mean, I
maybe
really thought
that's
that's what
right.
MCAS was for, but.
But maybe
so
this
we
is-
need to decide.
Yeah, this is another
metric.
metric.
The metric,
right?
Yeah.
Put together.
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably become clearer as the process unfolds.
So it's just one more
We
thing
can
for you guys to
speculate.
do. So.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, thank you
See
so
how it
much
goes.
for putting.
So I
that together.
apparently should have brought flowers for you today.
No, no. I just want some sleep.
The next
Well,
glass
it-
is the next one.
It wasn't lost on us that you said 11:59 on Sunday night.
That was my deadline.
Yeah.
He knows I need the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and please, if there's any questions.
We might
Or
just-
it'll be public either way.
We might forget to come back to you.
All
I'm
right.
gonna refresh that.
Good luck.
8:45.
I'm sorry.
Why don't we
Thank you
move
for
on
checking that
to
here.
budget, thank you very much.
Of course.
And move on to the budget subcommittee update. This budget subcommittee meeting just a few days ago.
There was, so, and I'll let, Mr. Maron hop in here wherever he would like to as well. Do you have slides? Oh, look at that.
It's nice for everything.
And we can go forward to the new businesses.
Sorry.
So, the first thing that we did was we looked at our trend in enrollment for October first, from the last several years, and, dipping off a bit at, K-5 still, but we seem to be leveling off more at the middle and high school. And, I'll let you take the quarter one finances things,
Yeah, so this shows basically our budget, so sort of actuals up until quarter one, so July through September. You see the first column left is the budget. They have two areas, one being expended, so what we've actually paid out to date, and then encumbered. I think we're a fairly good practice where we encumber a lot of our knowns, so salaries, we encumber everything for the most part. There are some areas that we don't encumber, around substitutes or some stipends that we're waiting for. And so with other expenses, we know a lot of like the technologies we're gonna buy, or some schools will 2 blanket POs for supplies that we're gonna order through the year for paper. And then you'll see the far right is what's available. In both those areas, so personnel and other expenses in the total. So overall, it's about 97% spent, encumbered, that 3%. And then this is just an update on, if you remember last year, so our budget went through, we had our operating budget, and then we had Article 28 around the literacy initiative that we had a presentation on tonight. So this is an update as last week on where those lines are to date.
Is this, it's just, Q1, but is this the total amount? Like, is this?
Bottom right would be total amount available.
Total available.
Well, is that the amount available leaving Q1, like, for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, sort of as of Q1, yeah. So yeah, we,
Right.
some of
So-
these
so
were
we-
expended in October.
Yeah, whereas this is all Q1, right? Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
And we started spending, in
Yeah.
Q1,
yeah, but so we need this for Q2.
correct, yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
And
so,
yeah, just
so
as
some of
similar,
the teachers said they ran into a concern, one of the piloteers said she ran into, the group ran into a concern, they called Great Minds and they spoke to a specialist. Do we pay for that time, or is the pilot program just kind of an all-in expense?
We haven't, I don't think we paid extra for that kind of stuff, have we?
I don't think I've seen invoices
Like,
for
do
that.
they charge us hourly for any additional support that we may need, or?
No, it's all built into the contract.
Okay, it's just.
I was gonna say, Lori, it would only be PD or things that happen outside of the contracted time for the pilot.
Right, and as Frank said, they want a business, so they're very amenable,
Uh-huh.
and, yeah.
Does it seem like this is
For
something
anything
that,
with
that wasn't scheduled? There was a concern that came up and they were able to Zoom with Great Minds. And that's not extra.
No.
It's all in.
It's
I
all
love
in.
it.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, as I said, you'd hope that some portion of that would be, but to your point, we're still shopping.
Right.
And so they're gonna be
We're
really
still
nice to us
fine.
this year.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly,
Correct.
exactly.
So those areas to watch are, as we know, collective bargaining settlement impact still to be resolved. Our special education, again, these are the common areas that we're looking at: the tuition, the student support services and transportation, athletics and substitutes. There were some particular areas within that, Mr. Marin, that you
Yeah, it's more long-winded. I can hear, I'll go to the end, it's a book summary.
yeah.
And so on the collective bargaining, we noted that 3 out of the 5 remain open. I think UNC seems closer there. Special education, there's a lot of volatility on district replacements, so we're tracking those.
And the restructuring of some of the tuitions you mentioned as well in the meeting.
Yes, we just called out, there are certain schools who can sort of flag to the state that their expenses kind of outpace their revenue. So they go through this reconstruction process and they've submitted letters. And it varies, so that you have your typical like OSD approved rate, and they're looking at 3.04% increase next year as a state rate. And some of these schools are saying like, hey, we need a 30% increase in what we're charging.
Kind of like what we did,
Yeah.
you know, we just, anytime we wanna have an increase, we just, we write a letter.
Pass on the
Right, we get used to that 14% increase or whatever it was.
Yeah, they liked those days.
But,
so.
but that'll take effect for FY 27.
Yeah, so
Right.
I'm curious on here, there wasn't a lot of money up on slide 16. There's $1.8 million in Q1, and it sounds like there's a whole lot more risk in this list than that, right? Is there a level of
That's
comfort?
just operating.
Yeah.
So that would not include
But-
federal funding, circuit breaker,
Oh, okay, so that,
yeah, it's
that-
just operating budget money.
okay, I was like, this looks like more than $1.8 million.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to that, so we're also looking at our ESPs. So from the back, we've had some growth in those student support positions around carrying kind of last spring into the summer and fall. It's about net of 7 FTEs of increase so far.
Since the budget was approved.
And then student transportation sort of tried or tied to just replacements and transportation changes to. And then the last one around athletics.
Sorry, could you just explain, what does that mean in student transportation?
So it's really sped
bus.
transportation, yeah. So that's, as we've seen, increased, or if a student is placed in a residential, that it's a different route that we have to transport them to.
Or the.
adding monitors.
Some on the box.
Yeah.
To be able to.
So it's driving costs.
Yeah, and then we sort of spoke to the market itself, and we're seeing issues with arrival times, and we're sort of brainstorming how to fix that on our end, but maybe bringing in additional buses from our gen ed side to offset some of those sped.
For our
issues.
in-district ones, not our.
For in-district, correct.
In this spec.
Yeah. Yeah, if you recall, we did that with LBLD about a year ago. So that was typically all sped transport, and then we got one bus to consolidate those students.
And up at the,
Yes, I'll go to the, yeah. They know that athletics, we ended the year with a very small balance in their funds. They kind of had this fund balance kind of post-COVID, and that's been spending down pretty rapidly since then. So we really ended with no money there. So we're working through that budget this year. And then substitutes are an area that we're always tracking. It's good for the update. And we spoke a little bit on fees, and there was a question of what it costs if you eliminate all fees, and it's about 1.5 million if you do FY26 numbers. It's kind of an asterisk on.
That their parents pay extra to participate.
Correct. Kind of an asterisk on athletics, that there's some additional costs there we have to account for.
And that's just the current participation rate. Is your participation rate go up for you?
Right. Right, so we talked a little bit about that, Mr. Huckrock, too, that would be at our current participation rate in all of our programming. So if we made that programming at no cost and made it available to all students, that, you know, certainly in other areas where we've done that, we've seen an increase in participation. So, and it would be an amount that would escalate year over year too. So it isn't as if we were saying we could add $1.5 million to our budget and be set.
Right.
To keep fees free forever.
Right.
Because that cost would escalate year over year, just like our operating budget does.
And this isn't a proposal, so like if it were to become a proposal,
It's just the what if scenario, because these are activities that we do want to encourage participation in. We want more kids taking the bus, we want more kids involved in athletics and music.
Right, no, I.
We don't want cost to be a barrier.
Right, no, I would love everything to be free, I just know there's a cost for that, and so just if we ever got to that conversation, we need the full cost. Well,
yeah, right, we were just trying to get a scale because we had thrown out the last meeting that from when we looked at it before, and we were trying to get a more precise number around that to kind of get our heads around what that would look like and how that could escalate over time, and just understanding like if we were to add that much to our budget, or how would that affect our areas.
Right.
So just the very beginning, just a very high level look.
And it sounds like it would be something like 1.5 million plus some increase participation rate plus some escalation over time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But for activities, again, that we'd be happy to support.
Oh, of course.
Right, we want more kids taking the bus.
Well, we want kids riding.
Because then we're taking fewer cars off the road and we're taking cars off the road.
Wait till we get the electric buses.
We want bike lanes.
Yeah, we want bike lanes.
Absolutely protected bike lanes.
There's solar right over
Solar right over.
And raised
roadway.
Okay, all right, everybody.
Raised crosswalks. Raised crosswalks.
You went for lunch?
Nothing more green than one.
Hey.
Yes.
So we are gonna continue to meet, I don't know, we didn't throw the timeline slide back up, but again, we're, just to remind everybody, we're following the similar timelines last year, so we expect to vote on on the preliminary budget for next year in January. And continue to work through that budget as we also, just as a rollover lead into the next item up. to think about where the city of the town is going and trying to then align those processes post January.
Yeah,
Election.
so,
There's only one slide, I hate to say.
oh, for state of the town?
Yeah, it just says
I'm
update.
not sure. Do you wanna get settled in first? Okay.
Yeah, you go.
So, like you said, Michelle, state of the town, we're presenting a budget in January, whatever state of the town is doing, whatever number they put on the ballot, that won't be voted on until March. So we basically have to work on 2, possibly 3 budgets. Because, we have to work out what if an override fails, what if it passes? And, though the number will be determined by January, so I guess 2 would be, right, the scenario that we wanna look at,
At least.
right? Or,
Versions of.
or the third will
Right.
be a failed override.
Right.
The second would be a level services, and then the third would be with essential services that we presented, we talked about our budget priorities for the next 3 years.
And which of those, the override number that they come to then is able to fund.
And that's
as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the discussion tomorrow. Schools will be presenting, though we're not ready to present level services just yet, because again, as we all know, we're still in a contract negotiation, and that's such a significant budget item. So we still need some additional information around that. However, we're answering some of the questions that have come up during State of the Town, such as, your vision, how does it the mission and vision, how does it tie into the asks that we're putting in front of State of the Town? What are the performance metrics and the data that we're using to come to those conclusions? That's the discussion that we're having tomorrow. And then hopefully in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to see where we fall with contract negotiations, to understand the levels of.
And then that goes to the select board for debate and discussion.
Correct. And eventually it falls on the select board, that final number.
So I think the guidance that we're gonna need from the committee, at your next meeting is how do we address, because obviously they have to have a level of services number to model off of so that they can understand, you know, what's the impact of that and then the override.
And they're looking to us for that guidance, right? Though they have, assumptions in their model, they're looking to partner with us to understand what that number would look like, and we're a significant chunk of that number, so yes. We're gonna present a budget in January, however, the timing is kind of off because they need to have an understanding and vote on what that number is before them.
So, can you just recap that, there are 3 scenarios or whatever, and was it basically essential, level, and what we
Well,
actually
one
need?
is severe austerity.
Yeah, so.
In case we are not able to, the override is not successful. The
And
second
not
is
able
level
to fill in
services.
with free cash.
I'm sorry,
So, austerity would be if we're creating a budget that's not able to be supported by free cash next year.
correct.
Or not as much free cash as we would believe we need to provide level services budget.
If, just on these 3, if the override fails and we backfill with free cash, is there an opportunity that the override would be run again the next year, or?
So that,
Okay, so we have
What
the,
happened then?
okay, so we have austerity is one option, is level services
the second.
the second
yeah.
option,
And then the
and the
third,
third is what we actually need.
what are our budget, yes,
Okay,
the essentials.
got it.
And I think the confusing part is there's sort of a 1A and a 1B, right? Which is, you know, if it fails, the voters of a meeting could then decide they want to support our budget at whatever level of free cash they choose.
Right.
But they can also take that as a signal in any way that they'd like to say, you know, we would like large cuts. You know, so we can ask for whatever we ask for, and they can give us whatever they give us, regardless of whether the override passes. So I'd say there's sort of like a 1A and a 1B.
So we need to think about what we think one of these numbers, or maybe all 3 of these numbers are, and then also what things would be cut. Is that what you're saying? as part of this austerity budget, or?
I mean, ultimately, I think we get the amount of money we get, and then we choose what to do with that money.
Right.
Obviously, if it's smaller than the amount that we asked for, we're gonna have to make cuts. And then the question, I mean, listen, this is like, as I will say first thing tomorrow morning, this is a conversation that's happening in towns and cities all over the Commonwealth right now.
Yeah.
Melrose's situation is actually a really instructive one, right? Because they probably waited a little bit too long.
And they did have to make cuts too.
Then they had a failed override, so they had already started to make cuts, and then they had to make some really severe cuts over the past year. And now they have put out the 3 override questions, all 3 passed, which meant they got the highest level of override. It was still essentially just to kind of plug the gaps that had built up over, sort of probably the 2 years since they needed to have a successful override. And so I think my perspective on what Winchester is trying to do is just completely not have that 2 years of pain that our neighbor has had, right? So the idea is to fully fund everything in time, such that we don't feel, the budgets do not necessarily feel the impact of moderate to severe cuts.
Is state and town looking for what number from us for the what we need essential budget or
Level services. Well, they know we've already presented our essentials, the budget priorities that we discussed back in September.
Right.
They also already presented, that's updated literacy, math, MTSS, all of those different priorities. And we quantified the cost for those level services that we're waiting for. And we can't talk about level services without knowing where unit A is going.
And level services plus all of that.
We got the plus.
Okay, we got the plus.
We know what the
pluses
pluses are.
I mean,
base. Okay.
And the reality is that I think the biggest part of the conversation in many ways is going to be, given the current position of the town, what catch up needs to happen essentially, because there are some I think that would argue, I certainly heard this from at least a couple of people on FinCom last year, that we probably should have started the override process a year earlier. Now that's up for debate, right? But
It's always easy to say that.
correct. But it's, and part of it also is just, what the sort of ongoing appetite for reserves has been in town, right? We've always held it in free cash. There are other communities that have sort of designated their reserves into specific funds. We've always kind of held the large majority of it in a central pot. There's now some move to try and designate some of the free cash into specific reserve funds, which I think, sort of parallels what some other communities have done. But we've chosen, Select Board chose to move from 6 to 10% reserve to 8 to 12, moving up to 10 to 14. I guess it's 8 to 14, moving up to 10 to 14.
Yeah.
But it's, the decision from policy standpoint at the elected executive authority of the town was made to move up the amount of reserves we hold from 6 to 10, ultimately to 10 to 14. But that doesn't mean sort of the 21 or 22% that we've been holding in the past. I think to some extent, the past year, because we dipped into free cash to do some of our budget, has gotten us much closer to that 14% number. But it's a cultural appetite thing, right? It's, sort of people, there are other towns that, there are towns certainly that do an override every year and sort of say, this is how much we need for this year. We need to.
They do small ones.
Yeah, they do small overrides. They basically close the gap between what they need or they ask for and what the Prop 2.5 revenues look like. That's not the path that Winchester's taken so far. We've sort of said, okay, every 3 to 5 years or so, we'll come back to the voters for an override. There are different ways to do it. I think
That's actually not what we've done, because we've never
Yeah,
had
we've
an
even waited.
override in a long time.
Yeah, it's been 7.
It will be
Yeah.
7 years from March.
So,
But at the last state of the town meeting, assuming a 4% level services for schools, if there is no override or an override fails, we're at a $7 million deficit. And if we pull that all from free cash, yes, we're butting up against those reserve ratios that the select board just passed. However, that's $7 million that we don't get back unless we have year after year of surplus, right? Like that's spent.
Right. Right.
That's a number.
Which has been our challenge, because we have had year after year surplus for the last 3 to 5 years, which is what
But
has sustained the override longer than.
Perhaps, yeah,
We
it has,
expected it
yes,
to.
but that's not to say that that's gonna continue.
No, I'm not, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's why we.
Yeah, we've been
are where
lucky.
we
It's
are.
been it was a 3-year override. Here we are, 7 years later.
Right.
And, you know, a couple of factors went into that, but
So when we're building, we always have a contingency, some percentage, because we don't really know where things are gonna land. So as we're thinking about what this level services piece is, it strikes me there ought to be a contingency built onto that. Yeah, and so you threw out 4, I don't know if 4 is the right number, but was it 4
well,
and a
that's
quarter
the
or
number
4 and a
that
half?
Select is using to model.
Right, well,
Whatever that
just-
number is.
that's just a number.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just what they chose.
But whatever the number is
From
that
the historical.
that we think it is, it ought to probably have something, since there's a lot of variability, especially if contracts aren't resolved. It sounds like you're having conversations, they're modeling before we know where things are gonna land, that the more things that are uncertain, the bigger the contingency will be.
Well, and I think to that point, the thing that's challenging right now is that the first however many millions of dollars are actually going to go into closing the gap already, right? So if that, it passes in March, then, there's, I guess, one theory of it where you sort of essentially put money back into, whether
The
it's
baseline
reserves or
operating
not,
fund.
but the baseline operating, that's a much better way of putting it, to sort of, make the town whole from the prior dipping in, right? As long as it meets that 10 to 14% benchmark that select board has set. Then the remainder of it is possible to deal with operating expenses moving forward, right? And the challenge is, of course, that, municipal inflation has been running substantially above 2.5% now for 5 years, right? And that accretes over time. So it's, when you're at 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5, right? But you're really running at 5, right? It starts to, the magnitude of that starts to build over time. And I mean,
it lends itself to a graph.
It sure does, but
if you little steps, or
Right.
occasional big steps.
But it's also challenging, right? Because the reality is we all see it in our own lives, right? There's no sign that the rate of inflation is abating.
Yeah, just because inflation's going up for us.
Inflation did, now it's at 3%.
Yeah.
As of September.
For now.
It went back to 3%.
For now.
For now, that's right.
And I think the municipal number, so there's the general economy number, but there's also the municipal number.
There's health insurance, there's
The-
other rates of premiums that don't fall within that standard 3%.
And that's what our teachers are saying.
100%.
Right. They're seeing their health insurance premiums and everything, cotton bags going up.
Right, but the towns are seeing that too.
Yeah.
What we're paying into their health insurance is going up for us, too.
Right.
As the number of, sort of needs go up, right? So, you specifically think about post-pandemic learning loss and sort of what the impacts of that have been in special education in terms of differentiation of instruction, like, those needs are real as well, right? So to continue posting good numbers, right, you need to invest in the supports that are necessary to make sure that those things continue to be.
And that's the theme of this beautiful deck that
Correct.
Dr. Matthews has put a significant amount of time into. That COVID learning loss and all of this data, and partnered with our vision, is resulting in hopefully whatever level services.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
present.
So far, we've done okay, right? We've maintained, I think, credit to those who've been here before as well, right? Like we've managed to do a lot with, in some cases, a little, right? But it's the realities start to accrete over time, and we deal with that in terms of our budget every year.
So forecasting is going to be difficult when we have a timing thing. What are you presenting tomorrow, and what do you need from us?
So I think tomorrow the biggest crux of it is going to be, we've been asked to sort of make what I would call a summative case, Dr. Elenema and Ms. Kirby, right? and Dr. Hackett, like this is sort of our summative evaluation, right? It's like, what is our overall?
We have the town of Winchester.
Yes, I was listening in for, yes.
But you do that before you have all the information.
Well, on level services, but I don't think that it changes our summation on our mission, vision, and
And
goals,
our needs,
right?
right?
And the needs, we really know what those are, and we've done the best job we can to model how much those are going to cost. And I think some of them definitely fall into the bucket of things we've been asking for years and have not been funded. And so, I would say tomorrow is sort of, part one, an introduction to sort of where we're at, right? Both from macro and micro lens, looking at sort of, the work that we've done together over the summer in terms of the visioning process and sort of doing our workshops and trying to get to the bottom of all of, what we thought needed to happen. And then sort of, a bunch of us have done work on sort of looking at different data that show us sort of how we're doing as a district. And then I think, sort of showing a little bit of continued conversation around the budget. I guess that's the next thing. And then really sort of looking at those program improvements, that sort of WPS 2030 graphic, the sort of chart essentially, staged out by fiscal year, right? The sort of program improvements that we're looking for, putting both a sort of research context or research base around that, like the policy context of why we want to do that specifically, and the impact that we expect out of each of those things, to just sort of be very crisp and clear about each of the asks on that matrix, saying, here's why we think this is important from a research standpoint, and the impact that we expect to see if we get that funded. And then
I think that's the part I'm most cautious about in a non-education setting.
Sure, yeah.
Because some of the impacts that we see don't equal in number.
Yeah, no, and that's
and many of the items on that list are not going to do that.
Okay. So
or not to that 4 years necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't sweetheart Anne say that she can see the impact of a district-wide rollout for Youth Live? And she can
that is
see
exactly what I'm talking about. That
but you can actually see it in our third grade MCAS.
You may or you may not for years.
But we did this year, that there was a significant improvement in third
We
grade
didn't have any
MCAS.
curriculum this year that impacted any.
No, but they were second graders that used Youth Live last year.
That's only phonics and community awareness.
So we
Right,
definitely
that was-
saw some results with Dibbles, and I
Yeah.
think anecdotally, just hearing teachers talk about what they're seeing this year with the students who are coming in.
Yeah.
You Fly has made a
Oh,
difference in where it's supposed to
I'm
be.
just saying, there's not a one-to-one correspondence.
There's never, no.
Right.
there's-
Dibbles and N.
No, there isn't. No.
And I'd be cautious to say.
It's trends, right?
Right,
So
because it's a whole package.
it's a whole different group of kids.
Right,
you
it's
know.
a different group of kids,
Yep,
the kids that are
yep.
coming into
We try to
kindergarten
look at
now.
cohorts, we try to look at, yeah,
Weren't
so,
pandemic kids,
Yep.
they were not affected by the pandemic.
But Dr. Matthews, I think this is hot off the press, and I don't know if you saw this, but it's, the State of the Town school presentation is now one of two. Tomorrow, it's, the data dashboard, vision, and programs. And then level services will be for 2 weeks down the
Yeah.
line.
which I think is great.
Yeah.
I don't want to obviously be on the spot or anything tonight, but once this is public, and you're presented tomorrow, could you share this presentation? So.
Yeah, everything that's in the box that is presented at State of the Town has been made available publicly.
but we'll send you.
But we'll send
Is
We
it
send it
sent
back.
to you,
Yeah.
right, that would be, and yeah, I'm not sure, maybe you can send the.
The box link, yeah.
The box to.
Yeah.
That's okay, we'll just send it directly, you can have the box link for, giving it.
Only Mel didn't exist. But
But it does protect us.
it's,
But it's a school committee posted the joint school select meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
So it is available.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yeah, it's just abstract, yeah, so we're going to talk about.
I totally agree, and that's the hardest part about, I have to say, this whole process is really, it's made me think a lot about sort of the state rules and collaboration. And
You know, back in 1988, the city of Cambridge passed like a $250 million override. Just so that way it ends overrides for an extended period of time. Because an override isn't guaranteed expense, it's authority.
It's authority, yeah, so
Right?
that's.
Just the authority to
and
spend that money.
It's a fascinating.
So let's pass a $1 billion override. Not talk about this again for the next 100 years.
I like where you're going. I really do. I think
We don't have to worry about
we'll
Prop 2.5 anymore, guys. We
Let's
have
make a
the
slide on
authority.
that tomorrow. We have a new idea. Yeah.
$1 billion.
I won't go to that meeting.
No.
No, that might not be.
I'm just saying that's what Cambridge did, okay?
I think, no, I mean, I'm happy to, given the time. Thank you all.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Godspeed.
You can dial in if you want.
Yeah.
I can't actually.
No, you can't.
You do them at the wrong time of the day.
Ready, next up, we have consideration of policy JKAA, it's a restraint policy. This had come to policy subcommittee a little while ago. Actually, we as the school committee had voted it previously. I want to say at the beginning of the year, but then since then, Desi has come back and has said, or the state has come back and said that they want more specific procedures information. And that is feedback that we've gotten, those coming to us tonight.
And no, and since then,
Oh, okay.
we had our special education attorney review it, and they are not in agreement with what Desi is recommending to put in the policy. So, as much respect as I have for Desi, and I really want to do well on this review. I feel like having our sped attorney is where we want to land.
Yeah.
And if there needs to be a conversation between the sped attorney and Desi, then, I
So be
can
it.
facilitate that. But so what the policy that you have in front of you tonight is true, and I mean truly, it is a policy that we started with. It was then shaped by Desi, but then in the last 3 or 4 days, our special education attorney, not just one of them, but a couple within the firm, have gone through and have given us very specific feedback. So you basically have in front of you a policy that was written by our special education attorney. Consistent, not, there's a lot of consistency with what we had in it before too. We do have a physical restraint policy, but the rules are also changing again for next year, which is part of what the Desi advice was they were trying to give us the policy language for what the changes will be for next year. And our attorney said, that's next year. So you need the policy now, update it for what the rules are, and that's what you have in front of you. So I'm not asking, we don't need you to approve this tonight, because of that recent change, which I've had zero time to tell anybody about. Everyone's hearing it for the first time except Jen and Eleanor.
Jen and Eleanor.
Elemental.
Jen
and Lauren.
So that's what you have in front of you. We'll bring it back to it next meeting on the 4th, December 4th.
This is the version that our attorneys
Yeah.
have worked
Yeah.
with. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
it's on the advice of legal counsel.
It follows the current law.
Correct,
I want to
correct.
just be clear, it's because it follows the current.
That
law.
and a few other things.
Yeah.
Right.
Does this follow the current Desi policy, or are they just trying to get us on to next year's?
Well,
policy?
Desi, it follows the law that Desi has to follow around what has to happen with a restraint.
Okay. Okay,
So
I'm good with that.
it follows the existing regulations that have been in place for a while from Desi about the reporting procedures, about what we can and can't do.
It puts us in the right place for that rest of this year.
Yes,
and then we'll.
yes,
next-
exactly.
Next summer, we'll
Right,
figure out.
right,
next year.
right, correct.
Okay, so
So
we'll
we'll
bring
bring
this back
Yep.
to you, we can
Yeah.
probably send four.
Yes, definitely this out for. Just in time for the audit.
That's right.
Happy holidays.
I was just gonna say.
Happy
All this there, people. Last thing up is the master facilities plan update. And I believe there is a slide with the timeline in your deck.
Is that
Last month.
It was a lovely slide, don't you?
It's great.
just a Mr. Marin slide?
It's just courtesy of SMMA.
Yeah,
I
we
just-
contracted this.
Okay, it's just big money.
No, I'm serious though, it's really clear, it was really
Yeah,
clear. It was
yeah,
really
SMMA
easy to
has been
follow.
super impressive.
And, I appreciated it looking at it, so
Yes,
sorry.
okay.
We've completed sort of phase one, which includes, there was kickoff meeting, started the site assessments. There was a team that came for the site surveys, so it's kind of the surrounding property of select schools. And they had MEP and architectural facility assessments, so through all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and all those systems. And then we had a series of programming reviews, so we spent at least 2 hours with every school, every principal, going through their floor plan and sort of how the building was designed, how they're actually using it. And looking at anything from technology, security, furniture, fixtures, equipment. So, yeah, being here in this room and looking at sort of, outdated furniture and how, what's of a media center, this library model, like, and so they have things like if they had to design it now, what would they implement and remove? We have, petitions for staff who are doing teaching over there, and they would design it differently or adding double entries to school buildings. And so that sort of completed that first phase of this effort. And the next phase, they're developing sort of those drafts, reports, the short and long-term planning. And that's when we'll sort of start to form that working group to gather feedback with the school committee and EFPBC, and to ultimately have sort of a final report by the spring town meeting.
And
The first was just a simple clarification. This is just school buildings? Not
Right,
municipal
yeah.
buildings?
Yeah.
Does this work integrate with the town's decarbonization plan? Just because as you're thinking about.
There's no sort of climate layer to this plan. It's really on the facilities themselves.
So it's, is this then just about the program inside the buildings then?
Yeah, what we're doing now and what we have room to do in the future. So it's capacity around classroom availability. Like some schools have the ability to build out additional classrooms.
And does it look, it looks at, existing, is it still looking at existing conditions and like when roofs need to be replaced and.
Yeah, they're incorporating our
Heating and air
five-year
conditioning
capital
system,
needs.
then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put together our capital plan, which we have, I mean, the town's done a great job with capital plan, the school committee, the school system has done a great job, so we have a lot of identified needs in the capital plan, so they'll pull a lot of those in.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is also, to do with capacity and right sizing and, programmatic spaces that are, designed for, the spaces where you use it designed for what they're supposed to be. Central office is the easiest example, right? We're in two buildings. I'm expecting that what we're gonna hear is that we need to find a location that gets us out of the high school at minimum because of the growth in enrollment and also just the need for the space, and probably on Lincoln as well. So those are the kinds of recommendations that we'll hear from them. It's really more, it's talked about program need, available space, I'm sure they'll comment on the modular units at Ambrose and at Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage having time at the layer in here, because if we're talking about HVAC systems and things, you probably want to use a lot.
But we're not at that level of detail. This is not like.
And it's not structural
No,
stuff.
no,
Not
no,
the
No,
Morocco.
and it's not about replacement,
No.
I mean, at least, is it following the last one, Dr. Hacker,
Yes.
where it just basically says, this will last you another.
Yeah, this is
X
the
number
age, this has, yeah, this has.
Yes.
So this is
like-
an assessment of what we have.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And what.
It's like an
what-
inventory.
An inventory, that's a
Right,
good word.
and what's,
Yeah.
what is our lived useful life, what needs to be, it's life cycle
Okay.
more than anything else.
But it won't make recommendations that says like, your roof is gonna expire in 10 years, therefore you should put a roof on with solar, or
Right.
that can have solar.
Is
capacity.
there gonna be a second phase at some point where that helps inform
Yeah.
things like
That's,
Morocco?
yes,
like,
yeah, this becomes the baseline for decisions.
Okay,
making.
so this is the inventory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question was the inventory, what kind of team are they bringing out? Do they have, what kind of people are actually coming when they're doing these programming visits?
Yeah, so a lot of architects, engineers on the MEP, and there's two architects on the programming, and one with the architects / educational programming is their kind of background. So the lead, Phil, I forget his last name, but he was on the team when they built the high school. SMMA had that design. So he came with a lot of that history already. And the other members currently on the Winchester project, designing that their high school. Their
What's MEP?
mechanical, electrical, probably.
All the delays.
Not a member of European Parliament, which was my first.
You're good too.
Don't know why, but there
And
was.
they did pull things like the high school schedule, and so Phil was going through all that tied to room capacity and sections.
And then walking through with principals, so the principals are talking about the challenges of the space, we programmatically, scheduling. It'll be a good document to work on.
Yeah.
And they have Lynch too as,
I was gonna ask. if
as
there-
Lynch is that the gold standard, then how's
Yeah.
that look at across the elementaries, what's missing?
Look forward to hearing the result. Which is going to be coming to us sometime next May, a draft today. Thank you so much. Next meetings, we have December 4th and December 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
You looking for confirmation?
She's looking at you
Yes.
like it's.
Yes, we do.
We're talking about one of
Yes.
those dates. Yes, okay, all right.
Are they, where are these meetings? Yeah.
We will be able to have a schedule.
Yeah.
We've gotten some feedback on our shifting schools, so we will act accordingly, but. We're kind of lonely, we don't have a space, elderly rooms not felt exactly right, the high school.
The media center at Lynch is very nice.
The media
Yes,
center was
exactly.
just
Well,
nice.
why don't you like go here and this? Like,
Fold
like
and-
a fold that
well,
or
it's
like
just-
the one
It's
that-
not welcoming.
Still go on. I have.
It's warm in here,
I
I have
have,
to tell you.
I have certain needs in my working environment.
Okay.
But-
High school library, that was nice.
Yeah,
That was
high
nice.
school library's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Of course, this week was walk.
I think the LG room for me, at least, it's the lack of windows is just.
Yes, it's a little hard there.
Very.
The shades are on the same.
Um,
It's the
true.
same room.
Yeah, it's
Maria,
true.
I have a lovely office. We could do it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right times of
The
year.
next,
Yeah, right, sometimes.
Yeah,
I
you
get
said
a
number
sun.
4.
Madam Chair is the fourth, and what is the other?
18.
Can I, can I ask a question of the committee to gauge interest in
No.
managing the next items on this agenda?
You may ask a second
Oh,
question
yes.
too.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether, does the committee feel the need to go into executive session on Unit C MOA, which has been in your packet, several that you've worked on, to discuss it before you consider a ratification? And if so, then that's the answer. If not, then I would recommend that then if you feel comfortable acting on it now, that you could do that now, and then we go into executive session, and then you don't have to come back out again to take action. So it would just end the meeting in executive session, so.
And nothing has changed since our last meeting in executive session
Correct.
regarding units.
Correct. Yeah.
Do we still wanna go into
I'm okay
executive
with that.
We still need to go into executive session for other items. but we
Mr.
don't-
Hopcroft and I are not the people that asked about this, because we were there for the negotiations, so.
No, I think you guys explained it well last
No,
time, and
yeah.
I think we had an
That's true.
opportunity to ask questions, and I'm happy to make a motion to, accept. I'm trying to find, accept the Unit C, to ratify the Unit C contract as presented. In our,
Second,
how's that work?
that's great.
All in favor, and I think we have to do a roll call.
You do.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Dr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom?
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji?
Aye.
And Mr. Hopper?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the vote is unanimous on ratification of the Unit C agreement.
And thank you to, yeah,
Dr.
the-
Matthews, Mr. Hopper?
Thank you to Unit C.
I was gonna say
Wait,
also
not
to the, yeah,
Get
most,
used to it.
most specifically to our partners on the WEA side.
Yeah.
As well as, Dr. Hackett and Ms. Kingdon for their amazing staff support, because it was it's my first collective bargaining as a member of the school committee, and I thought it went very well. So thanks to all of our partners on that.
And wrapped it up also, that's awesome.
Thank you for your Excel skills.
Yeah.
Thank you for your Excel skills.
Yes.
Summer program.
You beat us on B.
No, I'll never throw it in.
There's no second place.
Competition, it's not a competition.
So
Future agenda items? Anything?
sorry.
Otherwise, we'll bring to you what we have,
Yeah.
next hour on. And then executive session, we had purpose 2 to conduct step strategy sessions, preparation for contract negotiations with non-union administrative personnel. Purpose 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Unit A. And purpose 6, to consider the purpose, exchange, lease, or value of real property. As the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the committee.
I'd be happy to make a motion that we move directly into executive session and adjourn directly from executive session and not come back into any public session afterwards.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay, thank you, WinCam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are we going to executive session?
I think we just shut everything down and say